He stood as the world's final vampire, a skeletal shadow of a once proud race. Every day, he barely clung to life on animal scraps, a victim of the Holy Knight's cruelty. To bolster their legendary status, those heroes framed him for every arson and murder imaginable. They hunted him like sport, savoring his despair as they repeatedly allowed him to escape. Only after his spirit shattered did they grant him a brutal execution. Yet he woke again. He was back in his old camp long before the hunt began, his severed limbs fully restored. The nightmare was gone, replaced by a body made whole once more. Eugene checked the date and froze. He had regressed 6 months into the past. His executioners were only just beginning their search. To rewrite his tragic destiny, Eugene vowed to stop running and seize absolute power instead. He marched straight toward a forbidden zone he once feared, the dark heart of the forest. This cursed swamp would be his proving ground. It was time for this vampire to evolve. Blood is life, and the more noble the source, the more divine the power gained. His prey? The Forest King itself, a monstrosity with jaws wide enough to swallow the world. His current body was fragile, but a single scratch on the beast would grant him its essence. Survival once meant hiding in shadows, becoming a ghost that no man or knight could find. But concealment led to ruin. Now, he wouldn't hesitate to paint the swamp red with blood. He lunged, but his blade shattered against the beast's hide like glass. Despair surged in his chest. Its defense was impenetrable. Then, a massive tail whipped out, launching Eugene through the air. The impact crushed him into the filth. He lay there, paralyzed, his broken body refusing to move. He had underestimated this wanderer. These entities weren't like common demons from the abyss. They are natural disasters roaming the wild, growing stronger by condensing magic in a world of scarcity. Inside them lies a magic stone, a treasure far more valuable than any dragon's gold. It is the creature's soul core. Destroying it is his only hope to flip the script. Suddenly, jagged teeth sank into him as he was dragged into the swamp's murky depths. The beast opened its maw to swallow him whole, but Eugene saw his final, desperate opening. He bit deep into its tongue, draining its life. Glowing runes erupted across his pale skin. The divine blood surged through him, mending his broken frame and restoring his withered strength. Reinvigorated, he crawled deeper into the beast's gullet, seeking the source of its immense power. There it was, the core, hidden in the darkest reaches of the monster's throat. He didn't hesitate. In one desperate gulp, he swallowed the stone. As it shattered, raw energy flooded his veins. The power was overwhelming. With a deafening roar, the Forest King's body detonated from within. Stone shards rained from the sky as Eugene emerged from the carnage, completely untouched by the blast. He stepped out of the crimson swamp. His very essence evolved through this trial of blood. He sought only sustenance, but he had gained something far greater, a new, invincible form. The magic stone's resonance far surpassed his wildest dreams. A new power began to take shape. Jet-black scales armored his skin, a gift that might finally grant him freedom from the sun's curse. He first learned of the Forest King while enslaved by mercenaries. Back then, it was a nightmare. When the beast attacked his captors, he seized a single, life-saving mouthful of its spilled blood. That essence allowed him to break his chains and flee. Now, he possessed that power tenfold. Despite this awakening, he was still a mere insect compared to the Holy Knight's overwhelming might. He had to be smart. Their lead hunter possessed a divine sense that could sniff out any undead. If that man hunts in earnest, nowhere is safe. He needed more power to survive the coming storm. When the knights finally arrived, he wouldn't be a victim. But the sun was rising. Time was up. He couldn't test his limits under the dawn's light. Retreat was necessary. Suddenly, he felt a presence. A small fairy fluttered toward him from the trees. This was no mere beast of the swamp. To die such a pathetic death. That beast stole my lands and choked my crystal lake into a putrid swamp. Finally, it's dead, and I owe you my thanks. However, you've stained this soil with gore, so a price must be paid. Eugene froze in shock. Who goes there? Since you asked with such sincerity, I shall grace you with an answer. I am the eternal guardian of this woodland, Lord Moran. The trees howl and the earth trembles in fury. You shall be cursed, and cursed shredded to ribbons. That's my decree anyway. But you can't even hear me, can you, you hairless vampire? After all, only the legendary Mirian clan possesses the divine gift to perceive wandering souls. A massive question mark practically materialized above Eugene's head. What on earth are you raving about? Miriam froze, her jaw dropping. Wait, can you actually see me and hear my voice? Eugene replied with a deadpan stare. I heard everything, especially the part where you called me a bald vampire. Oh, forgive me. I was merely being a bit impulsive. I am Mirian, a celestial water spirit. This grove was my sanctuary until 15 years ago, when that wretched crocodile enslaved me and seized my home. Now that the tyrant is slain at last, the land can finally breathe again. It's all thanks to you. Though I swore I saw a bald geezer get swallowed whole. Was that your clever disguise to lure the beast? You truly are a tactical genius. As he listened to Miriam's rambling, Eugene noticed a mysterious tattoo on his skin beginning to vanish. He felt more lost than ever. He possessed no memories of his past. He only knew the life of a vampire, as if born into the night itself. The only thing he knew for sure was the 10 ink marks etched into his flesh. If these tattoos were some ancient seal or curse, did today's victory mean one of those chains had finally been broken? Shaking off the thought, he glanced at Moran, hovering nearby. I'm moving on. Stay here and protect your forest. What? Miriam shrieked in terror. You can't leave me! All alone. It's been ages since I've had a real conversation. Have you no heart? As the centuries pass, fewer mortals retain the sight to glimpse the supernatural. Now that I've finally found a companion, you're just going to vanish? Eugene shot her a look of pure confusion. Didn't you claim you wanted to restore your swamp back into a lake? True, but purification is a grueling process. I should at least offer you, a pale and strikingly handsome man, some refreshing water. I'm a spirit, after all. My essence is divine. If you drink it, I might even fix your ghostly complexion. Without warning, Miriam launched a high-pressure jet of water at him. Quick, open wide and catch it. That's revolting. Stay away from me. Seeing Eugene actually walking away, Miriam spiraled into a panic. Please, wait, master. I can filter anything. I can turn the foulest muck into a vintage brew. Whether it's through my mouth or other ways, I can. Produce endless gallons. Why are you running away, Mr. Nightwalker? In a flash, several days drifted by in the quiet Broadwind village. Suddenly, piercing screams shattered the morning peace. Help! Chief! The red-eyed demon has returned! Staring at the mountain of fresh game piled before them, the villagers stood paralyzed in disbelief. Chief, look! He brought a massive haul today. What does this crimson-eyed monster want from us? Why does he provide these feasts every single time? The monster the locals feared was a mysterious dweller from the jagged peaks far beyond the village borders. He had haunted the outskirts for 10 long years, yet not once had he raised a hand against them. Instead, every 2 weeks, he would emerge from the shadows to leave a bounty of meat. That monster was Eugene. This time, he spoke. Can I find a place within your village to rest? The village elder nodded slowly. A decade ago, they lived in sheer terror of him. But his consistent tributes of prey acted as a peace tax. They had grown to accept his bizarre presence, forging a strange bond over 10 years. My long-standing curse has finally begun to fade. I've come to share the good news. This village has sheltered me for a long time, and I wish to return the favor. With those words, Eugene reached up and cast aside his tattered hood. The crowd gasped in collective shock. "Hey, gorgeous, who are you?" I merely wish to say, if you ever need aid, call my name. My eyes! The radiance is too much! Is he truly the red-eyed beast? Where is this blinding aura coming from? Could the monster who lived in the dirt actually be a hidden half-elf or a fallen high noble? Even the village elder was mesmerized. I never imagined that beneath that mask hid a face of such peerless beauty. Even in my prime, I couldn't hold a candle to him. Eugene, why bother with these humans? The water spirit trailed behind, completely lost. What's your endgame? Aren't vampires supposed to be harbingers of blood, gore, and destruction? Eugene's voice remained cool and steady. If you wish to walk among the living, you must first show them who you are. It's a peace offering. So, you want to be friends rather than predators. But you said you were leaving soon. Why go through the trouble of making ties now? Eugene spoke with chilling calm. Soon, bloodthirsty mercenaries would raid this village, leaving no survivors. He couldn't just watch the slaughter. Having regressed, Eugene knew the future. They were coming for a young boy, intending to drag him to the regional lord's castle. Lord Tilwyn's orders were absolute. To ensure no witnesses remained, the mercenaries planned to massacre every man, woman, and child. Moran's eyes widened in disbelief. A massacre? How could you possibly know that? Even after days together, Eugene remained an enigma. He didn't offer a complex explanation, only a flat response. You'll see soon enough. First, I must secure the villagers' trust. Moran was utterly baffled. What did winning trust have to do with an impending mercenary attack? Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted violently. A crushing aura erupted from Eugene, the sheer pressure knocking Moran straight to the dirt. The ground trembled beneath his power. Ow! What was that for? She hissed, rubbing her sore back. But before Eugene could speak, the sound of marching boots echoed. Emerging from the tree line, a band of rugged mercenaries appeared. They stopped dead in their tracks, staring at the lone youth. Who's this kid? Why is his hair so long? One muttered. He didn't look like a typical peasant. He looked like trouble. He's just a handsome brat, another sneered. Their boss narrowed his eyes. The original plan was a silent raid, but this witness changed things. He's alone and unarmed, the boss noted coldly. But if he screams, the village wakes up. Silence him. Permanently. A mercenary grinned, raising a heavy battle axe. With a roar, he charged at Eugene, intent on splitting him down the middle. Moran screamed in terror, but Eugene just raised a palm. Quiet, he commanded. You aren't the one getting chopped. Why are you yelling? The mercenary closed the distance in a heartbeat, his axe whistling through the air. Death seemed inevitable for the stationary boy. Then it happened. With a single knife-hand strike, Eugene cleaved the man in two. The sight was so gruesome, the others nearly lost their minds. Panic surged through the ranks. This wasn't a boy, he was a monster. Eugene's hand began to shimmer, manifesting draconic scales. His gaze turned predatory. You're not moving? He asked, his voice dripping with ice. Fine, then I'll come to you. Like a blur of death, Eugene dove into the crowd. In the blink of an eye, bodies began to drop like flies. Die, you freak! A mercenary shrieked, swinging his blade. But Eugene's scaled hand caught the steel with a deafening, metallic clang. With a flick of his wrist, the mercenary was cut down. Another man lunged from behind, putting his entire weight into a downward smash. Eugene didn't even flinch, blocking the heavy strike with his bare, iron-like hand. The shockwave rattled the attacker's bones. The mercenary's face contorted in pure horror. "What kind of devil are you?" he gasped. He would never get his answer. In a flash of silver, his head was sent rolling. Eugene's gaze swept over the survivors, his eyes glowing with a terrifying light. "All of you, together," he challenged. Screams of agony filled the air, followed shortly by a heavy, suffocating silence. Villagers soon arrived, drawn by the noise. They stood frozen, staring at the blood-soaked clearing in absolute, speechless shock. What happened here?" the village chief stammered, his eyes darting to Eugene. "Did you do all this?" Eugene wiped his hands, looking perfectly calm. "No," he lied smoothly. "I found them like this on my way back from hunting." He pointed toward the shadows. "It seems they were ambushed on the road, and I think I found the culprits." The villagers gasped as Eugene revealed the scene. Strewn across the clearing were the mangled corpses of massive black wolves. "Wolf pack," the chief whispered. The ground was littered with fur and blood, painting a picture of a desperate, wild struggle. "I caught them scavenging the bodies," Eugene explained. "I tried to drive them off, but there were too many. I only managed to kill these." The chief frowned. Black wolves were dangerous, but taking out an armed mercenary squad seemed impossible for a mere pack. "Look here," a villager shouted, examining a corpse. "Deep claw marks and bite wounds on the neck. It's definitely wolves." Another man nodded. "Same here. This looks like a frenzy." The physical evidence seemed to back Eugene's story perfectly. The chief's doubts began to fade, replaced by guilt. He bowed his head. "Forgive me, Eugene. I shouldn't have questioned your word." Eugene dismissed the apology with a wave. He looked at the carnage and asked the chief for his decision on the bodies. They couldn't leave a graveyard in the middle of the road. It would attract even more predators to their doorstep. "We'll bring them to the village and bury them," the chief decided. But secretly, he took a closer look at the wounds. He realized the truth. The wolves had only arrived after the mercenaries were already dead. Eugene had faked the entire scene. Why would a man with such power feel the need to lie? Was he protecting his reputation? Or was there a darker motive? The chief realized Eugene wasn't just a warrior. He was a strategist. He was playing a much larger game than they knew. "Oh, one more thing," Eugene said, reaching into the pocket of a fallen mercenary. "I found this while checking for identification." He pulled out a crumpled envelope. "It might be a letter for their families. Can you read what it says, Chief?" The chief took the letter, but as soon as he saw the wax stamp, his face turned pale. This is Lord Tilwyn's official seal." He snatched the envelope from Eugene's hand, but the contents made his entire body freeze in terror. "Where is Felid?" he demanded. A villager pointed toward the square, unaware of the chief's sudden panic. The chief lowered his voice, whispering the unthinkable. Felid might be Lord Tilwyn's own illegitimate bloodline. Eugene remained perfectly composed. He had already squeezed every drop of intel from those dead mercenaries. "You were waiting for us," the mercenary boss had stammered. "Why interfere? We were just following orders." "I don't care about your job," Eugene growled, "but this village belongs to me. Back off." "We didn't know. We weren't going to kill them," the boss pleaded, desperate to save his own skin. They claimed they were only after the Tilwyn bastard, hiding his identity within the village walls. "An army just for one boy? You're lying. Tell the truth now, or go meet your ancestors." The boss trembled. "It wasn't the Lord. Kamla and Well Tilwyn were the ones who hired us." It was a high-stakes game of noble succession. They were tasked with kidnapping the illegitimate son. "We brought a small army just in case something went wrong. I've told you everything. Please, have mercy." Eugene's jaw tightened. So he was involved too. Hatred began to simmer deep within his chest. Worrell Tilwyn, the legendary commander of the vampire hunters. A man known as a noble, righteous knight. The village massacre was likely the mercenaries' own cruelty. Yet that tragedy had lured the holy knights. In his past life, That single event exposed him, leading to his miserable end by a holy blade. He had died a pathetic death, becoming nothing more than a tool for Knight Kate's rising reputation. "Spare us! We didn't know!" Eugene sighed. "Fine. Watch out for hungry wolf packs on your way out." "You're really letting me go?" The bald man wept with relief, praising Eugene's unexpected mercy. Squelch! His head fell before he could finish. A look of lingering relief remained on his severed face. "Lord Eugene, you're a terrifyingly good actor," his ally remarked. "Even I thought you'd be nice." "He knew my secret," Eugene said coldly. There was no way he was walking away alive. He glanced toward the shadows, sensing more predators. "The vultures are coming. Let's finish this quickly." Back in the present, the chief's face turned ghostly pale. The guards were now just a pile of corpses. Those dead men weren't just mercenaries. They were Lord Tilwyn's elite guards sent to escort Felid home. With the escort slaughtered, the question remained, how would they ever get the boy to the castle safely? Eugene stepped forward. "If he needs an escort, I'll do it. I know these woods better than anyone." "You'd risk your life for us?" The chief hesitated, moved by Eugene's apparent bravery and selflessness. Eugene simply shook his head. A true knight never ignores a person in desperate need of help. Moran gasped in shock, and the villagers stood frozen. Did he really just claim to be a knight? "A knight?" Moran hissed under her breath. "You've got some serious nerve telling a lie that big." "Forgive my late introduction," Eugene announced. "I am Eugene, the young master of the Eugene family." The villagers were instantly petrified by the revelation, while Miriam could only scoff at his blatant audacity. "I knew he was special," one villager cried. "Only a noble could possess such a commanding presence." Suddenly, his survival in the forest made sense. It was the power of elite knightly swordsmanship all along. Miriam couldn't believe her eyes. This entire village was actually falling for his ridiculous, fabricated story. "Lord Eugene, our village is poor. We cannot offer you a reward," the chief admitted, looking down. "It's fine," Eugene replied blandly. "I'm just exhausted. Let me rest one day before we depart tomorrow." The next morning, Eugene faced the rising sun, testing his hardening ability against the burning rays. The excruciating agony he expected never came. Instead, he felt only a faint, manageable sensation of heat. "This trip will be easier than I thought." Moran approached him then, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Why tell such a massive lie?" she asked. "Which lie are you referring to?" Eugene countered. "You're a knight who can't even read. Eventually, your true identity will be exposed for everyone to see." "Lies are always revealed, Moran. But it doesn't matter. I'll be long gone before that day comes." A villager's shout echoed from the gate. Eugene turned toward the sound, leaving Miran with his words. The masses bow to authority rather than logic. Between a red-eyed monster and a noble, who would they trust? Lies are easy, but a noble title compresses 100 deceptions into 10. A true noble may doubt me, but this village is the perfect place to plant this lie. Now I shall turn this fiction into reality. To keep Eugene's eyes from causing any trouble, I drafted a letter of explanation. "Please, safeguard the young Master Felid during our journey." Felid stepped forward with excitement. "I am truly honored to be traveling by your side, Mr. Eugene." "I am Eugene. It is a pleasure." Soon, the duo ventured forth toward their first destination. "Is that Brahm's village?" Felid nodded. "Yes, the sign says so." "You can read?" "I know a few. My mother taught me, though her origins were humble. She learned from the man she once loved. I never imagined that person was Mr. Tilwyn." Suddenly, Moran appeared. "Why did he not teach you? Why not learn now?" Felid froze at the suggestion. "Wait, is Mr. Eugene not a noble knight? A knight who cannot read?" Eugene exhaled a heavy sigh. "It is a title without substance. My house fell long ago. I survived by the blade, not the pen." Seeing Eugene's hidden sorrow, Felid's heart grew heavy. Could it be? His entire bloodline was truly lost to time. Eugene walked in stoic silence. His quiet pain only solidified Felid's growing respect for the man. Your acting is impeccable, Mr. Eugene. No wonder you deceived that wretched crocodile back then. I must apologize to you. To be honest, I held deep doubts about your true nature. You seemed like a monster, then a noble. The village rumors had clouded my own judgment. It was my own prejudice. From now on, I will trust my eyes, not the whispers. I will teach you to read so you never feel shame before others again. Suddenly, Eugene's pupils narrowed. In a flash, he snatched a flying arrow right out of the air. Felid hit the dirt in pure terror. His wide eyes filled with absolute shock. Are these bandits? Eugene crushed the arrow, his gaze turning lethal. Up ahead, several men stepped out from the shadows. Your aim is improving, brother. Look at that brat's face. Did he just wet himself? Drop your gear and empty your pockets. Otherwise, you'll have to die. But before he finished, Eugene's blade flashed. The bandit was cleaved in two, his head bouncing across the dirt. It came to rest right at Felid's feet. The corpse's eyes remained fixed in a final, horrifying stare. Felid nearly vomited. The remaining bandits froze as a primal chill gripped them. After years of plunder, they realized they had finally provoked a true, living nightmare. What was that command? Eugene asked coldly. You bastard! How dare you slaughter my family? The man charged with a roar. In a heartbeat, he was also cleaved by Eugene's steel. Two more heads fell with a single fluid strike. The sole survivor trembled in absolute fear. As he tried to flee, Eugene raised his blade, aiming with cold, mechanical precision. The sword pierced through the man's chest like paper. Silence descended upon the bloody road. Why must humans always target the weak? Is plunder the only thing in your hearts? Does a weak appearance grant you the right to be a monster? Eugene turned to Felid. If you teach me to read, will I finally understand why the world is so cruel? Eventually, the pair reached Brahm's village. Merchants shouted, offering rare herbs from the northern dungeons. 20 copper for a bundle, Felid whispered, noting the blatant price gouging happening all around them. Be on your guard here, Felid warned. These merchants are predators looking for easy prey. I have been here before. They will rip us off if they see any weakness. Eugene nodded. We may look poor, but we have something they want. He approached a nearby stall and slammed down a bundle of black wolf pelts. The shopkeeper froze. Black wolf pelts were a legendary rarity, and Eugene had several. The merchant's eyes widened as he looked up at the mysterious man before him. Judging Eugene by his drifter rags, the merchant's eyes gleamed with greed. He'd finally hooked a massive, unsuspecting prize. A windfall was within reach. These pelts are damaged, he lied smoothly. I can only offer 18 silver coins, tops. Eugene's gaze turned icy. 18 silver? Was it really that much? But the moment their eyes met, the merchant froze. Panic surged through the shopkeeper. Did this kid know the market? He pivoted instantly, his voice dripping with forced kindness. Black wolf pelts are rare, after all. I'll increase the price. Eugene's heart raced. He could actually get even more. Seeing Eugene's stoic face, sweat beaded on the merchant's brow. Since you're new here, I'll be exceptionally generous. Let's call it 25 silver coins for a future partnership. Eugene's entire body shook from the sheer, unexpected shock. 25 silver for just a few pelts? Yet Eugene's silent stare remained razor sharp, sending a chill down the merchant's spine. The man felt his skin crawl. Not enough! Fine. 27 silver. That's my final offer. Eugene's eyes widened in disbelief. The shopkeeper fumed inwardly. Who was this guy? He hadn't said a single word, just stared like a god of death. Speak up! Name your price! The merchant barked. Felid gasped. 27 silver was enough to sustain their entire village for a decade. 30 silver coins, not a copper more. Deal. Just like that, Eugene had secured a fortune before nightfall claimed the sky. Night fell, and Eugene stared at a pile of papers. These worm-like squiggles, were they actually letters? He was completely lost. He couldn't decipher a single stroke. Earlier, after his big sale, Eugene had finally traded his rags for decent clothes. Contrary to Felid's warnings, Eugene found the local merchants to be incredibly generous, almost suspiciously so. He'd just stood there, and they'd practically thrown extra services at him. Still, Moran was baffled by Eugene's choice of attire. Why pick such plain clothes? Aren't vampires supposed to be elegant? Moran mused. Silk robes, ancient castles, and moonlight? Ruling over servants and sipping fresh blood from crystal chalices like fine wine. Living a life of dark luxury? You've watched too many plays, Moran. Real vampires aren't like that. At least, I'm certainly not. And didn't you grow up in a swamp? How do you know these tropes? Moran shrugged, recalling the tales of the elders. Old-timers who failed in the human world would return with wild stories. They said vampires are practically immortal, unless a silver blade or a wooden stake finds their heart. Or they're stuffed with garlic. They live for centuries. 200 years of life! You need to start learning everything you can, Eugene. Eugene just looked at her blankly. Garlic? I actually enjoy the taste. And honestly, anyone dies if you stab them in the heart, vampire or not. Felid returned to the campfire, looking puzzled. Mr. Eugene, were you speaking to someone just now? Just thinking aloud. Is your stomach still turning? Eugene asked. Felid shook his head, his face pale in the flickering firelight. I'm just not used to the sight of death. Not yet. Then let's focus. The night is young. Time to learn your letters. What followed left Felid speechless. Was reading truly this simple? Mr. Eugene, you're a genius, the boy exclaimed. It took me months to grasp the basics, but you mastered it in a single glance. Your talent is terrifying. Don't overpraise me, Felid. But for a future noble, reading is just the beginning. You have much more to learn. Felid's expression clouded with doubt. It feels like a fever dream. My mother never spoke of such a grand destiny. I can't even imagine Lord Tilwyn accepting me. Suddenly, a group of mercenaries emerged from the shadows, waving a greeting. Eugene's instincts screamed. His heart tightened as his hand instinctively flew to the hilt of his blade. These weren't mere thugs. Their high-grade, standardized gear set them apart from any common mercenaries he'd encountered. Easy there, friend, the leader called out. We saw you traveling with a kid and wondered where you were headed. The man offered a friendly smile, but Eugene remained on high alert. Lying now would only invite more suspicion. We're bound for Lord Tilwyn's castle, Eugene stated firmly. The leader beamed. What a stroke of luck. We're headed to the castle too. Let's join forces. We've got plenty of ale and roasted mutton to share. A blonde mercenary stepped forward, his face twisted in annoyance. Captain Pack, why waste breath on these nobodies? Pack silenced the boy with a sharp gesture. Forgive young Lean. He lacks manners. I'm Pack. And you are? Eugene didn't flinch. I am Eugene, a knight. Lean erupted into mocking laughter the second the words left Eugene's mouth. Did you hear that, Captain? This drifter actually claims to be a knight. Where's your pride, man? No horse, no armor, just rags and a rusted blade. A knight? You're a joke. And what family did you say? The Eugene family? Never heard of them. You're just a pathetic poser. Eugene's expression darkened to a murderous depth. The atmosphere turned heavy. They were merely passing through, yet this brat was begging for a lesson in blood. I'd kill you if not for Felid's safety. Your head would be my ball. Pac approached with an icy gaze. Suddenly, his fist crashed into Laban's jaw. Laban flew 30 feet back. That single blow carried enough power to kill. Forgive this fool's insolence, Sir Eugene. Eugene casually dismissed the captain's apology. Just this once, Eugene muttered. Soon, the mercenaries had their camp established. Laban finally woke up, groaning in pain. What happened? Why is my face burning? Pac's eyes flared with fury. You have no idea how close you were to death. You dropped your guard at night. One wrong move and we'd all be corpses. Laban scoffed. That hobo? He's nothing. Pak shook with pure, unadulterated rage. A hobo? That robe is high-end gear. It's the latest fashion from the capital. The lining is rare wolf fur. It costs 10 silver, half your yearly wages. He's literate and educated. Does that sound like a common nobody to you, idiot? He was seconds from drawing his blade. We're lucky to even be breathing. Laban felt a cold shiver. Captain, how did you know he was ready to strike? I watched his every move while you talked. He was coiled like a snake. His hand was hidden, his feet perfectly set. He was ready to kill instantly. If I hadn't stepped in, your head would be rolling on the grass now. Could you have stopped him, Captain? Pak sighed. Knights are monsters beyond imagination. Knights are born in nobility and forged in blood. Their training begins in infancy. They live for the blade, conquering lethal dungeons with nothing but steel and courage. They never retreat. They've slaughtered their own kind on battlefields to earn their titles. The survivors are absolute monsters. None of them have clean hands, believe me. Plus, impersonating a knight is a capital crime. Anyone doing it must be powerful. Without absolute mastery of the sword, you don't even deserve that title. Countless warriors seek the path, but only a handful become true, living legends. For someone that young to claim the title, his strength must be truly terrifying. Laban swallowed hard, his throat dry. Is he even stronger than you, Captain? Pak nodded. He's heading to Rose Castle. Rumors say a new dungeon is about to open. Our paths align, so we'll meet again. They whispered, unaware Eugene heard everything. The knight title carried immense weight. Eugene realized its utility at once. But titles weren't enough. He needed to prepare for the looming shadows ahead. Eugene approached the group. Since we share a destination, shall we travel together? The deal was struck. Suddenly, dawn broke, bathing the world in blinding golden light. The next morning, they reached Matra. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. By now, the mercenaries were fully convinced of Eugene's status. The journey continued. But as they arrived, a new dread arose. What awaited them in this territory? Moran the water sprite appeared. I've been eavesdropping on those mercenary secrets. Lord Tilwyn is on his deathbed. He might not survive until tomorrow morning. A mysterious dungeon has appeared nearby, promising a fortune to any brave soul. But the family is broke and weak. They haven't dared to challenge it yet. If the Lord dies, what happens to the child? His brothers will kill him. Eugene's gaze remained cold. It's none of my business. He wasn't a hero. Perhaps the Lord only wanted to see his son once more. Fates were shifting. Destiny was pulling them toward the end. Finally, the massive Rose Castle appeared. The luxury was staggering. They had to move fast before time ran out. Lord Eugene dreamt of high-level glory and such a majestic castle. But suddenly, he was firmly seized. You dare touch me? Eugene growled, eyes flashing. Suddenly, an authoritative voice demanded an explanation. State your business. Greetings, sir. We're the para-mercenaries. And which esteemed lord might you be? I am Cora Tilwyn. Is that our cargo? Yes, sir. Delivered safely. Then move it, quickly. Cora's gaze shifted to Eugene's group. And who are you? A pleasure. I am the knight Eugene. And this child is... But a booming voice cut Eugene off before he could finish. Eugene froze, his pupils shrinking in shock. That face. He'd recognize it even if it were burnt to ash. The man who first exposed Eugene's vampire identity. The commander who hunted him relentlessly for 6 months. The true knight, Visser Tilwyn. What are you doing here? This was our garrison's task. Cora's expression soured instantly. Must I report every single breath I take to you, brother? You're overstepping. You know that's not what I meant. Tension crackled between them like a live wire. Eugene stepped forward, breaking the ice. I have a letter here from Broadwind's leader, Guff. Visser reached for it with arrogant confidence, but Eugene snatched the letter back at the last second. He handed it to Cora instead. Sensible kid, Cora thought. Visser stood there, paralyzed by the blatant disrespect. Visser's face flushed with pure humiliation. What? Wolves slaughtered the mercenaries? No survivors? And this child is father's secret son? Cora blurted out, instantly regretting his lack of tact. He turned to Felella, apologetic. I'm Cora. Are you our new brother? We've been waiting for you. Father is eager to meet you. But Visser's glare deepened. This beggar child is my brother? Take him away. Scrub the filth off and find him some decent clothes immediately. Visser turned to leave in disgust, but Eugene's voice rang out, bringing him to a halt. Visser turned, his eyes like ice. About my reward, Eugene said. I wish to see Lord Tilwyn. Rage flared in Visser's eyes. You think the great Lord Tilwyn meets with commoners on a whim? His health is failing. Take your gold coins and leave. This isn't a negotiation. I risked everything for your brother. I won't say it again, Visser hissed. Don't push your luck. The air grew heavy with murderous intent. Just then, Cora stepped between the two of them. We're taking our brother to father anyway. Why not bring Eugene along? There's no harm in it. Have you lost your mind? Father is barely awake an hour a day, Visser shouted. You'd waste his precious time on a stranger? Visser was livid. Even his brother was defying him. And now you're trying to control father's life? Cora countered coldly, turning his back on Visser. He looked at Eugene. You won't see him today. Rest first. Little brother, shall we tour the grounds? Eugene watched them leave, his mind racing with hidden calculations as he studied the castle's shadows. Suddenly, a loud shout shattered his focus. So here you are. I've been searching everywhere for you. The villagers had hired these mercenaries, but they were a rowdy bunch who refused to stay put. They wouldn't come willingly, so I had to use a bit of physical persuasion. Looks like they're eyeing the dungeon raid too. Visser's eyes flickered toward Eugene, sharp and suspicious. He patted the newcomer's shoulder, whispering a warning. Too many ears here. Let's speak inside. Pack approached Eugene. Wasn't that Sir Galfred Frederick, the man everyone's been talking about lately? The champion of the Evergreen Tournament. His future in the knightly orders looks incredibly bright. They say he crushed over 1,000 opponents in a single day. Simply monstrous strength. Utterly absurd, Eugene mused. Why would a rising legend like that bother with this remote outpost? It had to be the new dungeon. Even far from the capital, clearing a dungeon brings massive glory. Galfred is likely using this dungeon as a stepping stone to join a high-ranking noble family. Eugene's eyes narrowed in thought. He turned to Pack. Your contract is finished now, isn't it? How about I become your next client? Night fell, and Cora watched Visser interrogate the mercenaries. Anxiety and rage boiled within him. This dungeon must be opened, no matter the cost. With his father's health failing, the battle for succession had turned ruthless. Now, he'd even played his trump card, summoning the legendary Sir Galfred Frederick. He was clearly planning to raid the dungeon, a feat that, if successful, would swing the entire nobility to his side. If that happened, my claim to the title would vanish into thin air. What options were left? I couldn't just send innocent mercenaries to their doom. Damn it! I was backed into a corner. At that desperate moment, a servant announced an unexpected visitor. Lord Cora, a Mr. Eugene is here to see you. Cora's heart skipped a beat. Wasn't that the knight from before? Send him in immediately. Welcome, Mr. Eugene. Rest assured, your safety is guaranteed. Once my father recovers, you shall be rewarded handsomely. But then, Eugene sat down without an invitation. Cora stiffened. This man certainly didn't care for formalities or social status. With a calm gaze, Eugene stated he had official business to discuss with the true master of this land. Cora felt another surge of anticipation. Sitting across from the mysterious knight, he asked, "What is it you desire?" "I want in on the dungeon raid. In exchange, I can offer you advantages you can't refuse." Cora was speechless. A moment later, a sharp laugh escaped his lips. "You're quite the character. But what could a lone knight offer me? Why should I trust a stranger when the stakes are this high? Give me one good reason to accept your terms." "Because I'm the key to your survival," Eugene replied steadily. "My price? 100 silver and half the loot, excluding the demon stone, of course." Cora fell silent, running the numbers. The deal was dangerously good. "And that's exactly why you're so suspicious," Cora muttered. Eugene merely shrugged with total indifference. "Take it or leave it. I'm not the one whose clock is ticking after all." The audacity! This brat was right. "You truly are a fascinating man," Cora said, his eyes narrowing. "I can't find a single reason to decline this gamble." "Then we have a deal, Mr. Eugene." But deep down, Eugene felt a chill. Pack's warnings were starting to haunt him. Meanwhile, Visser's face twisted in fury upon hearing the news. Cora was actually recruiting more outsiders? Did he think a dungeon was some playground for children? Inside those walls, there is only life or certain death. Anyone who slows us down must be eliminated. Visser's cold gaze shifted toward Galfred Frederick. "My brother has no allies left and few connections. This mysterious knight is his final, desperate hope. If the situation turns ugly, I trust you'll know how to handle the fallout. I would be most grateful." Galfred Frederick frowned in confusion. Why was he being dragged into this petty, blood-soaked family drama? Before he could answer, Cora approached the group. "Apologies for the delay, everyone. Allow me to introduce our guest. Joining our ranks today is a new ally. I give you Mr. Eugene and his elite mercenary company." Visser's eyes flared with recognition at the name. "Hold on. We can't trust someone with no lineage or reputation. Allowing an unknown into this raid is suicide." Cora smirked, his confidence returning in a sudden wave. "I can personally vouch for his prowess. He single-handedly slaughtered a whole band of brigands to save my brother, and he did it with nothing but a common short sword." Visser stiffened. Those bandits were a nightmare to deal with. If the rumors were true, this man possessed terrifying skill. Visser decided to test that theory right then and there. He suddenly drew his blade and hurled it straight at Eugene's chest. Eugene's eyes sharpened instantly. With a metallic ring, Eugene drew his steel, parrying the flying weapon with a masterfully calculated strike. Witnessing the feat, Galfred Frederick finally cracked a smile. He stood up, his interest piqued at last. "Pardon my skepticism. Your skin is unblemished by battle. You look more like a sheltered noble. So, care to show me what you're truly capable of, young master?" Soon, they moved to the training grounds. "Move it! Sir Galfred is dueling an outsider." Word spread like wildfire. "If we're late, we won't get a seat." The stands were packed. "I heard Sir Galfred can rip monsters apart with his bare hands. Is it true?" "That's gotta be an exaggeration, right? But who's the guy facing him? Has anyone ever heard of him?" "Doesn't matter. Whoever it is, we should probably start praying for his soul." In the arena, Galfred Frederick grinned. Adrenaline surged through the giant as he stared Eugene down. "Are you ready, boy?" Eugene nodded silently. Galfred raised his blade high, but then he froze in total confusion. What on earth was this kid doing? Eugene stood there with a look of pure bewilderment. Then, as if a light bulb finally flickered on in his head, he awkwardly raised his own sword, perfectly mimicking the veteran's stance. The duel was about to begin. Tracking the man's every twitch, Eugene raised his blade. The referee's voice cut through the tension, signaling the start. As the gong's resonance filled the air, the two warriors vanished, colliding in a violent spray of sparks. They rebounded instantly, resetting their stance. "Quit stalling and fight!" Eugene roared, his battle spirit erupting into a blaze. In a flash of lethal intent, he lunged at Galfred Frederick. Their steel sang as they became a whirlwind of destruction. The crowd stood paralyzed. "Boss, you saw it," one whispered. I never imagined Sir Galfred could be pushed back by Eugene. Pack watched with narrowed eyes, shaking his head. No, Galfred is retreating by design. He's still probing the boy's limits. Pack's intuition was razor sharp. Galfred was indeed testing him, but Eugene's savage movements were far more chaotic than anticipated. His strikes were jagged and unpredictable, lacking any trace of habitual form or the refined patterns of a known school. This wasn't the swordsmanship of a scholar. It was the raw, lethal instinct of a predator forged in the untamed wilds. A spark of realization lit up Galfred's eyes, and a taunting smirk played across his lips as he blocked another strike. "Tell me, are you just playing knight?" he mocked. "Your form is a mess, and your foundation is practically non-existent. No formal training at all, I see. You're simply relying on your monstrous physical stats to carry you through." Eugene gritted his teeth, shocked that his secret was exposed so quickly. But to him, knighthood wasn't just about pretty forms. "You talk too much," Eugene spat. "Hit a nerve, did I?" Galfred laughed. "Beat me, and I'll stay silent. Now, show me." With a sudden surge of power, Galfred's blade descended like a falling mountain, aiming to crush Eugene's defense entirely. The impact was catastrophic. Eugene's longsword shattered like glass. Galfred didn't pause, immediately pivoting for a lethal follow-up. A horizontal slash connected, the sheer shockwave sending Eugene tumbling through the air. Visser let out a triumphant, ugly laugh. "Magnificent!" he cheered. Eugene slammed into the dirt, but within a heartbeat, he pushed himself up, eyes burning with fury. "Fine, you've officially pissed me off." Snatching up his broken steel, Eugene charged back into the fray like a demon reborn. Their blades met in a thunderous roar that shook the arena. Galfred's heart skipped a beat as he felt the shift. He just copied my sequence from seconds ago. His shock transformed into a manic, exhilarated grin. This was too good. Eugene launched into the sky, bringing his blade down in a devastating overhead hack. Galfred remained calm, ever the veteran. Raising his sword to parry with a confident smile, the unthinkable happened. The table had turned in a single heartbeat. Just as before, a blade was cleaved in two. But this time, it was Galfred's steel that shattered. Both men discarded their hilts. Fingers interlocked as they crashed together, entering a brutal, bone-crushing test of pure physical might. "You little monster, you're fascinating," Galfred thought, his soul trembling. Despite his smaller frame, Eugene's strength was sheer insanity. He was being overpowered in raw force, yet experience was still his greatest ally in this desperate struggle. Galfred shifted his weight, using the boy's own explosive momentum against him with a sudden, tactical yank toward the ground. Eugene's center of gravity vanished as he plummeted toward the dirt. "Game over, kid," Galfred declared. Eugene's pupils suddenly contracted. In a desperate feat of agility, Eugene slammed his palm down, vaulting his body back up to disrupt Galfred's own balance. Galfred gasped as his stance crumbled, his body tilting toward the floor. Pure horror washed over the veteran knight's face. He's no knight. He's a beast with an evolution rate I've never seen. He realized too late what he was facing. "I guess I lose," Galfred thought. Then, Eugene's fist connected with his jaw like a meteor strike, releasing a shockwave. The force launched Galfred across the arena, cratering the stone wall before he slumped into a dead faint. A heavy, suffocating silence descended over the training grounds. Finally, the referee managed to find his voice through the shock. "The victor is Knight Yen Eugene!" The crowd erupted into whispers. Who is he? How did he beat the Thousand Slayer? "See that legend?" a man bragged. "That's my big brother." Pack rolled his eyes, utterly stunned by the sudden change. "Whatever happened to your arrogant attitude?" Pack muttered. On the sidelines, the unconscious Galfred finally blinked his eyes open. He stared at the young man, his gaze filled with newfound respect and fire. "That kid, he's absolutely incredible." "A round of applause for our champion!" the announcer yelled, and the arena exploded into a deafening, wild celebration. Everyone was cheering for the new legend, except Visser, whose face turned pale. From that moment, everything for Eugene changed. "Well, look who it is, my most elite knight," a voice teased. "Sir Yen Eugene, did you have sweet dreams?" "I slept well enough," Eugene replied flatly. "Good. I'll take that as a win. But why did you reject my gifts?" Eugene went stiff. Gold or jewels I could understand. But what was I supposed to do with two maidservants? Just then, Lean came running toward them, her face bright. "Brother Eugene, I heard the news. You were amazing." I sprinted over the moment I was summoned. Cora watched me, thinking I was quite charming, but suddenly, Galfred shoved past, drawing a massive crowd. "Well, if it isn't my brother in arms," he shouted. "Sir, Eugene, how was your rest? Did you sleep soundly?" I nodded, and he grinned. "Excellent news. Unlike me, my face won't stop throbbing. I'm a mess. Look at these bruises." It seemed he was practically begging for another beating. "The sun is out," he laughed. "Up for another round of sparring? Can I watch from the sidelines?" Just like that, everything changed. Overnight, Eugene earned his title, and Fred stopped his insults about Eugene being a fraud. Cora even ordered a personal staff to serve the new knight. But Eugene felt smothered. "Stop fussing," he sighed. "Forgive us, my lord. Lord Cora insisted you be in peak condition for the dungeon raid. You must feast, hydrate, and rest perfectly every night. I'm here to manage your every need. Is the light too bright? We heard your skin is sensitive, so we blocked out the sun completely. Just name your favorite vintage, and I shall bring it. Don't claim vampires don't eat. If you devour all this, you'll get a stomachache." Eugene looked completely overwhelmed. "Thank you, but I'll handle my own meals. Everyone, please leave." The servants hesitated, so Eugene added, "I'll explain it to Lord Cora myself. Besides, I prefer my own company." With that, the staff withdrew. Days bled into one another. Slowly, the skeptics who once doubted his skills began to change their minds. "Hey, you're free! Let's hit the training grounds," it seemed. He was itching for another defeat. To know one's limits, one must fight. Suddenly, young Felid appeared from the crowd. "Sir Eugene, how have you been?" Meanwhile, in a darker corner of the past. "Mercy, Lord! I beg you. Your failure created this disaster. If you had just slaughtered that little brat in the village, that red-eyed monster would never have reached Rose Castle. You've ruined my masterpiece!" "My deepest apologies, sire. Those mercenaries are usually experts at wet work. I never expected." Excuses are for the weak. They're nothing but pathetic trash who got slaughtered by a mere pack of black wolves. You're incompetent for trusting them with my vision. Since your judgment is so poor, perhaps you have no need for your eyes at all. A split second later, a bone-chilling, agonizing scream tore through the halls. The silence that followed was even worse. What is my next move? I can't execute a guest in broad daylight. But then, a wicked idea took hold. This way, the cleanup will be effortless. Lord Visser has ordered me to lead you into the dungeon raid. You catch my drift, right? It was a death sentence. He's sending me there to die. But I can save you. Serve me, Felid, and you'll survive. You're 16 now, a man grown. The law says you're free. Choose your destiny. Either wait for the Reaper to find you, or fight until your very last breath. The fated day of the dungeon expedition arrived all too quickly. Listen up, you lot. I assume you're all veterans of the blade. Our goal is simple and clear. Secure a path to the mid-tier monster zone. If high-level beasts appear, you retreat or you die. Now, scout the perimeter for hidden entrances. Move out. Man, I'm glad we're just the porters today. Zero fighting for us. No blood, no glory. Seriously, bro? No ambition? Once we're inside the gates, we'll fake an injury and hang back. We can scavenge the leftovers and high-tier loot they drop. One good find could feed us for life. And if the knights get slaughtered, we'll just bolt. Suddenly, Lord Visser loomed over them. Slacking off already? What's this chatter? Where is that boy, Felid? The men snapped to attention, trembling. Where is he? One soldier nervously pointed toward the far side. You mean the kid, sire? Visser's eyes narrowed as he spotted Felid standing defiantly beside Eugene. He exploded with fury. Felid, why are you idling there? Have you forgotten my orders? Move it! Grab your gear and get to your post, you wretched brat! Are you ignoring me? Listen when I speak. Have you gone deaf? Get back to work before I lose my patience. Snarling, Visser lunged forward to seize the boy. But in a flash, Eugene's hand clamped onto his wrist like iron. Hands off! You've been barking nonsense all day. You'd really send a boy who only knows kitchen knives into this? The dungeon entrance? What's it to you? I'm just helping my brother grow. Know your place first. Eugene's gaze was cold. You're unfit to touch that boy. To me, it's you who has overstepped your bounds. Accept reality. He's under my wing now. From this day forth, I am his shield. Mark my words. Lay a finger on him and consider it a declaration of war. If you're itching for a fight, I'm ready. Absurd. Who gave you such authority? This is far from over. Adopting that brat won't be easy. Just you wait. I'll ensure you regret every choice you've made today. Is something wrong? Are you actually worried about leaving your brother with Sir Eugene? Personally, I feel completely at ease. He's 16 and finished his rite of passage. We should respect his choice to forge his own path. Eugene watched the scene unfold. To those vultures, Felid was nothing but prey. Once targeted, survival became a nightmare. For the weak, even fleeing in desperation rarely worked. The hunters would always track them down to finish the kill. But when the weak unite, the hunters finally hesitate, weighing the heavy price of their arrogance. Scouts report, the area is clear. No stragglers or escapees from the dungeon cave have been spotted. Then the operation begins. Together, the group heaved the massive dungeon gate open, revealing the dark abyss ahead. From this moment, your lives are your own responsibility. Stay sharp and advance. See you in 4 days. Sir Eugene, please stay safe. Let's move, Felid. The boy followed closely as they crossed the threshold. May the gods watch over them. As they entered, the heavy stone gate slowly ground shut behind them. The party moved cautiously through the shadows. Suddenly, a swarm of low-tier goblins ambushed them, sparking immediate chaos. Screams of terror echoed through the tunnel. Help me! Just then, Galed's blade flashed, bisecting a goblin instantly. A trembling soldier finally gasped for air. Saved! Focus, you fools! Rebuild the line. Back to your posts. Archers, center! Watch the ceiling. Don't let their numbers break our formation. The commander's voice thundered with authority. The disorganized mercenaries scrambled to obey, barely regaining their footing as the green tide surged forward once again. But goblins were creatures of pure frenzy. They charged relentlessly, trampling the corpses of their fallen kin without hesitation. One terrified mercenary's courage crumbled completely. Shaking and wetting himself, he thought, I'm a dead man if I stay. Driven by panic, he bolted toward the entrance. But the way back was already a sea of snarling monsters. Suddenly, a sharp command pierced the air. Get down! A whistling blade followed, skewering a goblin right through its skull. You idiot! You think the path behind is safer? Deserting will only lead you to a gruesome death. Survival demands we stand together. Snap out of it. Grab your steel and get back to the front line. Galfred, at this rate, conquering the dungeon felt like a fool's errand. Too many were looking for any excuse to run. A soldier rushed up, frantic. More enemies ahead! Simultaneously, another scout yelled that they were being flanked from behind. Panic flared again as the trap closed in. Galfred grit his teeth. Two-way formation. I'll hold the rear guard. Before he could move, Eugene ignited his power and charged straight into the swarm at the back. Galfred gasped, about to scream for the youth to stop acting alone. But Eugene had already vanished into the darkness. Everyone froze in shock. From the depths of the tunnels where Eugene had vanished, a dark object came flying out. It was Eugene's mask. "Something's wrong!" Galfred's blood ran cold. He feared the worst had happened to the young warrior. Gathering a small squad, he charged into the cave, praying Eugene had managed to survive the initial onslaught. But when he arrived, he stood paralyzed. Eugene was perfectly fine, calmly examining a strange, glowing flower in his hand. "The rear is cleared. I found this curious thing in the corner. Do you recognize this species?" Relief washed over Galfred, but his confusion only grew. Pack, however, was baffled for an entirely different reason. This knight didn't even recognize common glowgrass, yet possessed such terrifying destructive power. It made no sense at all. He wiped out a legion of goblins in seconds. Is he some kind of specialized monster slayer? Eugene ignored the stares, focused on the plant. Why is this withered? Meanwhile, the rest of the group finished clearing. "Sir Eugene, we've gathered the mana crystals." Looking at the small pile of loot, Eugene felt a pang of disappointment. These stones were a dull blue, nothing like the high-quality crystal he'd taken from the Wanderer before. Just then, Moran stepped forward. Her voice was sharp and matter-of-fact as she began to speak. Disappointment was only natural. Compared to high-grade crystals, these were mere mana pebbles. Mana quality scales with the monster's raw power. Eugene wondered if wild wanderers held better loot. Moran explained that monsters leaving dungeons become wanderers, but size didn't always guarantee quality. That massive crocodile he absorbed was an anomaly. Finding such a beast was incredibly rare. Such wanderers were legendary encounters. More importantly, it was strong enough to threaten her territory. Eugene realized that acquiring that crimson crystal had been a stroke of miraculous luck. Moran warned that without high-tier prey, this entire raid would yield almost nothing. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the cavern floor. Every face paled as their rest vanished. Break time was over. "Formation now! Sir Eugene and I will take the vanguard. Any cowards who flee will face severe punishment." Eugene scoffed. The man truly loved playing commander. Galfred turned to Eugene, whispering grimly. The next battle would be on a different level. These mercenaries were now dead weight. The monsters ahead possessed military-grade destructive power. In this abyss, low-tier trash like goblins were merely gatekeepers for the true horrors. They were about to face intermediate monsters, with even deadlier threats lurking behind them. If the intermediates were cleared, advanced tier nightmares would surely be waiting in the shadows. Hearing advanced monsters, Eugene's eyes blazed. That swamp overlord's crystal had changed everything. If I devour another high-tier core, will I awaken a second ability? Curiosity gripped him. Rapid, heavy footsteps echoed from the darkness. "Do you hear that?" Eugene asked coldly. 50 enemies approaching, 100 meters out. Behind them, 3 massive, heavy-footed behemoths. "Sharp ears," Galfred grunted. In a flash, Eugene snatched a spear and wound up. He hurled it with explosive force, piercing the pitch-black depths like a bolt of lightning. The spear instantly skewered an intermediate beast. "Charge!" Galfred roared as the chaos ignited. Soldiers and mercenaries surged forward, but Eugene was already dancing among the elite monsters. "Lord Eugene, wait!" a mercenary shouted, but he froze in sheer, paralyzed terror. He watched Eugene vault skyward, leaping directly onto the massive monster's hideous face. A sword flashed, blinding the creature instantly. Its agonizing, shrill shriek filled the entire cave. In a single heartbeat, Eugene struck decisively, then raised his blade to its forehead. With one vicious thrust, he ended its life. Blood sprayed, drenching Eugene in crimson gore. He stood there like a god of slaughter. The soldiers watched, forever haunted by the scene. But Eugene didn't stop. He pounced on the next target, an advanced tier nightmare. A shadow-like claw crushed the monster's skull into a pulp of bone and ichor. Shock gripped the survivors. The man before them didn't look like a noble knight. He looked like a demon crawling out of hell, shattering every knightly standard they knew. This combat style was a masterclass in brutality, far beyond anything they had ever worshipped. It was a beautiful, blood-soaked massacre. The difficult battle ended in a breathtakingly violent fashion. After Eugene slaughtered 3 intermediate elites, Galfred's heart sank as he surveyed the aftermath. There were no physical casualties, yet the soldiers were all trembling in psychological terror. Their spirits were crushed. Even Galfred felt a cold shiver run down his spine. These men had reached their breaking point. "Sir Eugene, we've hit the objective. Let's retreat." Eugene paused, his bloodlust unsatisfied. He had come here specifically for the advanced corps. He suppressed his irritation, his voice remaining calm. Retreating now would be a massive waste. "I'm not tired. Who knows when the next expedition will be? I'm moving forward. If you're scared, go back alone." Galfred's gaze darkened at the blatant challenge. "Fine. Since you're continuing, we'll stay by your side." But Eugene just shook his head. "Take the soldiers and withdraw. From here on, only I and my crew go forward." Eugene vanished into the abyss, leaving the soldiers trembling in his wake. Terror gripped them. They truly believed death was certain until he spared them. Beneath that cold, sharp exterior, he actually shielded those weaker than himself. I misjudged him completely. Eugene, you have redefined the path of a knight. Meanwhile, Eugene led his team deeper toward the territory of elite monstrosities. Lean's soul withered with every step into the oppressive, terrifying darkness. He longed to flee, but Eugene's overwhelming presence kept his resolve from shattering. Believing in his leader's invincibility, Lean steeled his heart and pushed forward. Suddenly, his foot struck something. Lean looked down and felt time freeze. A spider. Looking up, his scalp crawled. The ceiling was a squirming hive. Countless cave giant spiders clung to the walls, ready to spit lethal acid. Without warning, a tide of venomous predators surged forward to claim their prey. They raised their blades, but the sheer numbers forced Pack to scream for retreat. Eugene only smirked. "Just protect yourselves," he commanded, before plunging into the swarm. A flash of steel erupted, and a mountain of monster corpses fell instantly. "This is barely a warm-up," Eugene muttered, leaving Lean in absolute shock. Surrounded and desperate, Lean wailed for help, fearing his short life was over. In a blur of motion, Eugene circled the horde with godlike speed. The spiders threatening Lean were decimated in a heartbeat. "I'm your brother forever!" As the dust settled, Eugene's cold gaze sharpened, sensing a much greater threat. He casually ended the last survivor while scanning for a hidden primal power. "Big bro, we've done enough," Lean pleaded. "Captain, shouldn't we escape this nightmare?" Pat couldn't answer. His legs turned to lead as pure primal fear took over. High-tier variants were myths in these dungeons, yet a nightmare stood before them. Nobody prepares for a calamity of this scale. It defied all known logic. A single massive claw, thicker than a man's torso, stepped into the light. This was no common beast. It was the legendary, king-level giant spider. "Retreat, Mr. Eugene! We're just dead weight against a king!" Pack screamed. "Go!" Eugene countered, finally releasing his suffocating, predatory aura upon the cave. The sheer pressure paralyzed Pack, making his own body feel like a stranger. Grabbing Lean, he fled into the tunnels, driven by raw survival instinct. Left alone, Eugene faced the monster. "Your minions were smarter than you, beast." Miriam sensed its power. "It surpasses even the Lord of the Swamp, Eugene." "Excellent. That means its mana crystal will be a true masterpiece," he replied. Eugene raised his blade. "Struggle for me. I love breaking open difficult chests." With one legendary strike, the Spider Lord was silenced forever. Soon after, Eugene appeared at a grand banquet, standing boldly under the sun. By absorbing the king's crystal, he had evolved, gaining a perfect disguise ability. He hardened his skin against the heat while simulating a flawless human appearance. Finally, the curse of the sun was no longer his greatest enemy. "Why the mask, Eugene?" a noblewoman teased. "Why hide such a striking face?" They crowded him, desperate for tales of the knight who slew the giant spider. "You're far too cruel to hide those looks from us," another lady whispered. Miriam grinned mischievously. "Careful, Mr. Knight. These ladies might devour you whole." "You're so beautiful. Is there elven blood flowing through your veins, Sir Knight?" Eugene froze. Elven blood? This complicated the mask situation. Just then, Galed approached him. He spoke with absolute certainty. Only elven lineage could explain such supernatural traits. That razor-sharp vision in the dark, the beast-like hearing, and that incredible agility. Not to mention the sheer power behind that spear throw. You're clearly no ordinary human. I never expected to find elven blood here. But those looks will definitely draw attention. How did you stay hidden? Eugene's heart sank. This man's intuition was dangerously sharp. How could he possibly explain this? Suddenly, a spark of inspiration hit Eugene's mind. "I never tried to hide," he claimed. Gale stood there, stunned by his blunt honesty. Who could say that with such a straight face? Eugene exhaled a silent breath. Crisis averted. If anyone asked again, he'd use this elven lie as a shield. But the mana crystal offered more than power. The marks on his skin suddenly vanished. A jagged, forgotten memory pierced his mind. He saw himself in a cold, foreign place. A woman's gentle hand held his tightly, while bells chimed in that strange, empty void. Countless shadows watched him. Yet, he couldn't remember the face of the woman beside him. Was this even his memory? He had no past. Only one name echoed in his mind. A sudden shout broke his trance. "Master Eugene, help me!" cried the hopeless brat. "You fool! Your recklessness turned you into a burden for Mr. Eugene," Lean argued back. "That's because he isn't human. A normal person would have abandoned us long ago." "So now he's a monster?" Eugene watched the bickering pair, feeling utterly exhausted. Only the name Eugene remained. But today, a new premonition took root in his heart. If he erased these marks one by one, he'd eventually uncover his true, original self. Not a knight or a fake elf, but his real identity. They soon reached Tilwyn. "Congratulations on clearing the dungeon," the Lord said. "It is an honor, Lord Tilwyn. I am Kriya." Gale's third son stood tall. Eugene blinked, so his real name wasn't Galfred? Saluting with precision, he introduced himself as Yen, from the noble house of Eugene. The dungeon must have been grueling. Tilwyn motioned for his guard to bring a gift. "I heard you needed identification. This official document will prove exactly who you are." "This is perfect. My deepest gratitude, Lord Tilwyn," Eugene replied with a respectful bow. Suddenly, Tilwyn was seized by a violent cough. He whispered about his younger son's greed. "His ambition keeps me awake. Stay vigilant." Kriya promised to protect the family legacy. "My child, land is just dust. A true lord leads people, not just territory." Before he could finish his final lesson, Tilwyn's eyes closed for the last time. His hand went limp. A heavy shroud of sorrow instantly filled the silent room. Regardless of his past, many mourned the Lord's passing with genuine, heartfelt grief. Yet even in death, some remained cold. As twilight fell, Eugene prepared to leave. "Pardon my early departure." Kriya nodded, understanding the warrior had his own path. "Are you really staying, Mr. Eugene?" "Yes. That dungeon still holds secrets worth taking." "Such a waste to leave now." Kriya sighed. "Count Evero would surely admire your grit." He extended a hand toward Eugene. "Crossing blades with a powerful knight was an honor. I hope our next encounter finds us as allies, not enemies on some battlefield." Eugene offered a faint smile as they shared a firm, warrior's handshake of respect. "Stay safe out there, Sir Galfred," Eugene thought, as the man rode away. "We should move too, Pack." Felid looked confused. "I thought we were staying." Pack pointed toward the trail. Galfred's already gone, and real knights need horses. We're heading to the trade city to buy a steed and sell our dungeon loot. As Sir Eugene's loyal squire, I'll give my all to assist him. But just as those words left my mouth, Eugene stepped forward with a cold gaze. I don't need your help. Felid froze in place, his mind reeling. Had he heard right? What could that possibly mean? Suddenly, the scene shifted. Felid found himself at the docks, the foreman's roar echoing in his ears. Hey, are you working or daydreaming? Move those crates now! Confusion washed over Felid as he realized he was in Marin, the kingdom of Kalor's premier trade hub. His grand mission? Moving basic cargo. He grumbled, wondering if a knight should really be hauling dungeon byproducts. Little did he know, these weren't just any common goods. Word spread like wildfire that these treasures belonged to Sir Eugene. The moment his name was whispered, the crowd's excitement reached a fever pitch. Is that really the legendary Yan Eugene? The one who ripped a troll's head off with his bare hands? The rumors were absolutely terrifying. That's my big brother, Felid thought with pride, yet he was still the one stuck doing the heavy lifting while others gossiped away. Wiping his brow, he glanced at the nearby building. Eugene had promised he'd only be a minute, but those few words were taking forever. Inside, a merchant named Bill Moore was bowing low. Rest assured, Sir Eugene, I represent the most prestigious trading company in all of Marin. I will personally oversee the sale of your precious monster materials. Our reputation is unmatched, and our reach extends across the entire kingdom. We are the giants of this industry. Honestly, Sir Eugene, only someone with your elite connections could even secure an audience with us. You can trust our absolute professionalism. We'll offer the highest market value for your dungeon loot, far surpassing any of our low-level competitors. Sign an exclusive contract with us, and I guarantee your fortune. But before Bill Moore could finish his pitch, the door slammed open. A stranger burst in, demanding to know which one of them was the famous Sir Eugene. Pac's face went pale the moment he saw him. Sir Eugene, be careful. This man is the secretary to our deputy manager, and his influence dwarfs someone like Bill Moore. This spells trouble. He's likely here to intimidate us into lowering the price. If you want a reliable partner, you need to tread very carefully with him. Grayer, I'm currently negotiating a private deal here. But the newcomer just sneered. Move aside, small fry. I don't see a signature yet. Sir Eugene, your name is the talk of the harbor. Everyone claims a knight from Tillwind brought back a literal mountain of rare loot. They say you're the monster who decapitated a troll with nothing but raw strength. Grayer, however, wasn't impressed in the slightest. He figured it was just a cheap trick to inflate the price. To him, the rumors were nothing more than a common merchant's ploy. Our deputy manager wants to finalize this deal personally. Don't waste your time in this dump. Pack your things and follow me immediately. He looked at Eugene with hidden contempt. A poor, brainless knight who only knows how to swing a sword? I'll bleed him dry. But as that thought crossed his mind, a sudden chill filled the room. Grayer's heart nearly stopped as he met Eugene's icy stare. How could a single look be so terrifying? Cold sweat poured down his face as he realized he'd made a massive mistake. Forgive my earlier arrogance. I haven't properly introduced myself. I'm Grayer, the lead secretary. This is a golden opportunity for a man like you. Eugene's voice was like a blade. An opportunity? Tell me, what kind of chance are you offering exactly? Grayer began to tremble uncontrollably. The chance to sell your loot at premium rates. Our deputy manager will even handle the negotiations in person. It's an honor most never receive. Eugene's eyes grew even colder, radiating a murderous aura. Grayer panicked, his knees buckling under the sheer pressure of the knight's presence. I'm so sorry. Please forgive my disrespect. I'll leave at once and visit another time. Bill Moore watched in awe as the bully fled. The merchant was moved to tears. You actually rejected the deputy manager for me? Sir Eugene, you are a man of true honor. From this day forward, I am your most loyal servant. Just give the word, and I'll move mountains for you. When do we begin? Eugene's response was blunt. Get lost. Meanwhile, back at the headquarters, the deputy manager was fuming. You were actually turned down? I have no excuse, sir, but the rumors are true. That knight is no ordinary man. The manager narrowed his eyes, deep in thought. It's fine. Our power comes from gold, and that's a force no blade can parry, especially against a penniless knight who can't even afford a horse. Go and send him a gift, a lavish, overwhelming tribute that a poor soldier could never dream of refusing. We'll buy his loyalty. Back at the docks, Felid was stunned. You want me to stay here and sell all this monster loot by myself? Are you serious? You heard me correctly. Every single byproduct I brought back must be sold through this man. Felid felt a pang of deep disappointment. Am I? Eugene stopped him with a firm question. Felid, tell me, what is the true duty of a squire? The boy's heart hammered in his chest. A squire must support his knight in both combat and daily life. Eugene nodded. Then as my squire, you must manage my affairs. We need to build our fortune, and selling these materials is the first step. This isn't just a task, it's your primary mission as a squire. You'll live and learn under Bill Moore's guidance. He'll teach you the art of business. Once our pockets are full, only then will we talk. I'll consider teaching you the way of the sword. For now, master the trade. Felid realized this was his first real step toward greatness. As your squire, my blade belongs to you. I, Felid, shall follow your lead. Soon, Eugene reached the marketplace. Gold truly has wings. After buying the bare essentials, their meager funds had completely evaporated. Their coin pouch was so thin, it was practically see-through. But fortune favors the bold, right? Suddenly, a flash of silver caught Eugene's eye. A set of radiant plate armor stood on display. It wasn't just pricey, it was an heirloom. Even the wealthiest lords passed such steel through generations. Suddenly, Laban burst through the crowd, his face pale with frantic urgency to stop them. Terrible news, Sir Eugene. A massive horde of wanderers is descending upon the city of Marin. Emerging from the eastern woods, they were breaching the gates. The local guild was failing to hold. We need to join this hunt, Pack declared. Eugene frowned. Why get involved in their mess? Laban interjected quickly. Unlike dungeons, there's no bounty here, but Marin is a trader's paradise. We can sell monster loot at premium prices here. Better yet, transport costs are practically zero. It's pure profit. Let's turn these monsters into gold. But a voice suddenly halted them. It was Grayer, leading a magnificent beast toward them. A gift from the deputy manager, he announced. A war horse for the champion. The stallion's obsidian coat shimmered like liquid silk. Its powerful muscles looked chiseled from stone. This was a peak-tier purebred, chosen for a master. A gift from me? Your tone suggests there's a catch. Eugene's piercing stare made Grayer's heart race. No hidden agenda. I'm simply the messenger, Grayer stammered. In a flash, Eugene closed the distance. Grayer flinched as Eugene loomed over him. It's just a token of our profound gratitude, I swear. Without a word, Eugene vaulted into the saddle. Quiet, I'll take it. Give him my thanks. He kicked the horse into a gallop, leaving them behind. He's already gone. What now, Captain? That horse is lightning on 4 legs. Stop standing there and run after him, you idiots. Grayer watched them vanish into the dust. Finally, some peace. The scene shifted to the eastern woods. 2 goblins were cackling over their fresh, bloody loot. Their celebration, however, was short-lived. A shadow emerged from the trees as a black steed thundered forward. The monsters froze in terror. In a heartbeat, their heads hit the dirt. The invasion is larger than I anticipated. Finding this many wanderers so close to the city, that's good news for our empty pockets. Eugene reached the outskirts where the carnage was peaking. The defenders were losing ground fast. A golden-haired knight was trapped, encircled by high-level monsters hungry for his blood. If you want the city, you'll have to kill me first, he roared as the beasts pounced. Fear struck both man and beast. The knight's horse bucked, throwing him into the dirt before fleeing. Curse you, you cowardly animal. I, Madria the Righteous, swear. He stopped mid-sentence. Death was inches away as the intermediate monsters closed in for the final kill. Madria braced for the end, but a sudden flash of steel sent a monster crashing down. He looked up, bewildered. A man with cold, piercing eyes sat atop a midnight black stallion. Like a ghost, Eugene tore through the pack, slaughtering the remaining beasts in a single breath. Madria shuddered. This strength was monstrous. Even a legendary god of war couldn't match this intensity. I owe you my soul. What is your name, Savior? Eugene didn't even look back. Instead, he thrust his blade past the knight's head, skewering another beast lurking in the shadows. Names are useless for the dead. Madria let out a strained, nervous laugh. You're right. Once we survive this hell, I'll ask again. Hundreds of goblins swarmed Marin like a plague. The commercial hub was nearly lost, but we fought with every ounce of our spirits. In that darkest hour, a night descended like a shadow, reaping through the goblin ranks. With our combined strength, we saved the city. Marin held firm. You've heard this a dozen times. Everyone is dying to know who was that mysterious warrior. His name is Eugene. Eugene! That name sent shockwaves through the crowd. Was he truly the legendary knight who conquered the Tilwind dungeon? Word is, he can rip a troll's head off with nothing but raw strength. To think the man holding Marin's fate would be such an esteemed warrior. Lord Yen Eugene, the city's savior. But observing this spectacle was Louis Perrin, the mayor and merchant mogul. Now, the entire city echoes with that one knight's name. The more famous he becomes, the harder he'll be to leash. Are we certain about leaving him unchecked? My granddaughter, Platra. She merely offered a cold smile. Everything is proceeding exactly as I intended. His rising prestige only serves our interest. After all, the higher one climbs, the more terrifying the inevitable fall. Tell me, grandfather, what do we know of Eugene's squire? You mean the brat who handled the trade scraps? My sources confirm he's a hidden bastard of the Tilwind bloodline. A secret they've kept buried until now. Whatever Eugene is plotting, he's clearly hunting for massive capital through trade, just to fund that little stray. By leashing Eugene, we gain a direct line to the future master of the Tilwind house. A perfect investment. Brilliant as always, granddaughter. I see your vision. You intend to purchase the loyalty of this knight. Then I shall personally send Eugene a tribute. As mayor, it's only fitting to reward the city's hero. Honoring the man who saved us is a public necessity. I'll name you as the sponsor to maximize this opportunity. My thanks, grandfather. From there, they delved deeper into their scheme, refining every calculated detail of the trap. Night had already fallen by the time Platra returned home. A thirsty traveler will always seek the water's edge. As a merchant, my duty is simple. Before the target even realizes their thirst, I must dig the well. I will wait. I'll wait until you're forced to drink from my spring without a single shred of suspicion. Right on cue, Eugene arrived at the estate. Welcome, Moran's celebrated savior, the Honorable Knight Yen Eugene. I've come to offer my gratitude. I assume you lead the Marin branch of the Perrin Trading Company? Platra nodded gracefully. Indeed. Please, be seated. As he sat, she used the simple act of pouring tea to dissect the man before her. A handsome facade masking a monster capable of crushing a troll's skull barehanded. This knight radiated a lethal aura unlike anyone she'd ever encountered. Caution was mandatory. Masking her intent, Platra smiled. That armor suits you perfectly, Sir Knight. It was crafted in the finest workshop Marin has to offer. A bespoke masterpiece, forged from Elic iron and tempered with ancient ogre bones to create unparalleled steel. Its durability is absolute. Even the fangs of a dragon would struggle to leave a scratch on this plate. Your thoughts? Eugene offered a dry smirk. Not bad. I trust it will hold up during my next descent. My thanks for the hospitality as well. My mercenaries are well rested and prepared thanks to your logic. Though I don't seek out rewards, I acknowledge your generosity. Platra seized the opening to present her proposal. Would you be open to a business arrangement? But before she could finish, Eugene stood, abruptly ending the conversation. I've overstayed my welcome. Platra froze in shock. Leaving already? Eugene's voice was cold as ice. Once the Tilwyn dungeon falls, I may return. However, our deal only concerns the spoils of this current raid. This might be our final meeting, as I'll be prioritizing mana crystals from now on. Platra's face contorted. Was all this investment for nothing? Farewell. Eugene turned to leave, but Platra's sharp voice cut the air. Eugene stopped, confused by her sudden outburst. Did she have more gifts to offer, or was something wrong? Surely we have more to discuss, Mr. Eugene. Or do you intend to keep playing this foolish game? There's a limit to feigning ignorance. We provided Marin's costliest plate armor and a horse of noble lineage. We've provided luxury suites and the finest delicacies. The scraps you sold us don't even cover half the cost. Do you really think you can just walk away? Or were you planning to play the oblivious hero forever? You were a servant once. You should know better than anyone. Everything in this world carries a heavy price. If the citizens knew their idol was nothing but a shameless, dishonorable thief, would you still hold your head high? Marin's beloved savior. Do you truly intend to strip us bare and simply vanish without a word? No explanation? Eugene simply let out a chilling laugh. How utterly absurd. From our very first meeting, you tried to command me. You shoved unwanted gifts down my throat, and now you demand payment for your own charity? You're just a desperate merchant using threats to force my submission. Tell me, who gave you the nerve to challenge me? You've clearly misjudged the situation. Let me simplify. My contract with Parent Trade is already finalized through Billmore. As long as my business thrives, the idle gossip of Marin's citizens doesn't bother me in the least. However, you're correct. Everything carries a price. Speak your mind, then you'll learn the true cost of those words. Deputy Manager, this reeks of a low-level tactic from Perrine. It's obvious Pin and Marin are conspiring to crush the very knight who saved this city. If this betrayal continues, no warrior will ever defend Marin again. I'm done wasting breath here. Let's move. But just as I turned, Pack stepped forward to intervene. Forgive my lack of tact, Deputy Manager, but this is a tragedy. We could have been formidable partners. Pletra's face drained of color as she fixed her gaze on Eugene. He was truly prepared to walk away. Wait, please, Master Eugene. I offer my sincerest apologies for my unforgivable arrogance just now. As the branch manager of Parent Trade, I humbly ask for your forgiveness. My ambition clouded my logic. I tried to dominate this deal and failed miserably. Please, give me a chance to rectify this mistake. Your Billmore agreement stands, but I wish to add incentives that favor you. I promise you won't regret staying. Pletra had dealt with countless noble knights before. Usually, a bit of gold was enough to make them crawl. Most were just pathetic fools, chasing coins and glory. But the man standing before her now? He was different. A suffocating, lethal pressure radiated from him. Every merchant instinct she possessed was screaming in alarm. If I let this man slip through my fingers, I'll regret it forever. As Pletra's heart raced, Eugene sat back. Fine, I'll hear you out. But you'd better offer terms that are actually worth my time. Pletra exhaled, her tension finally breaking. Thank you for your immense grace and patience, she stammered. Well, look at our hero. With that armor and steed, you finally look like a legendary knight, Eugene. Eugene sighed at Miriam's endless chatter. Watch out, world! The coolest knight has arrived, she chirped. Pat carefully scanned every line of the document before nodding. The terms are incredibly skewed in our favor. Eugene stared blankly. You spent all that time reading just to say it's good? Tell me something useful. Pack explained that Parent Trade spans the empire, dealing with high-tier magic families like the Tilwyns. For a titan of that size to offer free mediation for any dungeon or labyrinth? That's a massive win. It's a deal far more valuable than some hollow noble title. Master Eugene, your negotiation skills are terrifying. Are you a genius? Pack asked. Just then, a group blocked their path. Is that shiny tin just for show? Does wearing armor make you a knight? Can a pretty face like yours even swing a heavy sword? A potato-faced thug mocked them, blocking the way. What is this trash babbling about? Eugene muttered. At that moment, Cora approached. Master Eugene, you've arrived at the perfect moment. We've been waiting. Eugene joked about calling him Lord Tilwyn now. Cora laughed, noting how much Eugene had changed recently. Eugene deflected the praise, asking for a status report. Cora's expression darkened. Visser's new mercenaries feel wrong. Remember the team that brought Fela? The ones slaughtered by black wolves? These guys have that same stench. They look lethal and untrustworthy. I remember how hard the last group was to deal with. Suddenly, Potato Face interjected. If the hero dies in the abyss, do I get to be the new boss? Cora's rage flared. Watch your tongue! But the thug just waved his hand with an arrogant smirk. Don't get emotional, Lord. Dungeons aren't for picnics. Lives are cheap in the dark. We need a backup plan. We're counting on you, Commander. Eugene nodded calmly. Actually, that's a brilliant idea. If I fall, let this potato-faced clown take my place. Miriam jumped out, fuming. He's disrespecting you. Why aren't you mad? Eugene signaled for silence. This is just one of Visser's desperate traps. He wants me dead. He'll use these mercenaries to dispose of me in the shadows. But if his plan fails, things are going to get very interesting. Miriam grinned. As expected of my lord. Always 10 steps ahead. Soon, they reached the low-tier monster zone. Eugene didn't wait. He marched ahead alone, a storm of steel. Man or monster, it didn't matter. Anything in his path was systematically erased in a flash of violence. In moments, the entire area was cleared. Potato Face watched in horror. The rumors weren't just talk. Eugene was a monster. He stood solitary at the absolute vanguard, exerting the strength of 100 warriors. Yet, the mercenaries merely lingered as idle spectators. His aura surged like an unbreakable bastion, shielding everyone from the abyss. But I won't yield. I'll stalk his every movement for a single opening. This venom-slicked blade must strike. That arrogant face will soon taste death. Suddenly, Eugene spoke. Higher-tier monsters haunt the path ahead. Your survival is no longer guaranteed. Only the brave should proceed. If you're ready to die, follow me. I'll repeat, only those with the will to endure are worthy. If the commander leads, we must follow. Maverick bared his yellow teeth in a sinister smirk. The moment had arrived. Lean attempted to step forward, eager to join the fray, but Pac gripped his shoulder. Lean faltered. Is staying behind truly the right choice? Pac whispered darkly. Lord Eugene has his own designs. Meanwhile, a nostalgic memory drifted through Eugene's mind. I last explored these depths with Sir Galfred. Without his presence, this journey feels hollow and mundane. He was a peerless sovereign of the battlefield, a man who forged unwavering courage when hope flickered out. He always claimed the deadliest path at the front. With his blade leading, even a pack of cowards could conquer any dungeon. I wonder, if Galfred were here today, how would he dismantle this treachery? So, the masks are finally off. You truly have a death wish. Fine, then I shall grant it. Suddenly, Moran lunged forward, torrents of elemental water swirling violently within his outstretched palms. The mercenaries froze in terror. A mage? Why were we never warned about this monster's hidden power? A spiraling vortex erupted from Moran's grasp, surging toward the flickering torches held by the treacherous sellswords. The light died instantly, and a suffocating abyss consumed the cavern. Absolute pandemonium shattered the silence. Maverick's heart hammered against his ribs. Blinded by the gloom, he shrieked for the men to relight the torches. Then, through the void, twin orbs of predatory gold ignited. Eugene began reaping their souls in the shadows. Ambush! We're being slaughtered! The carnage intensified. Maverick felt the icy touch of death creeping up his spine. He frantically struck his flint, desperate for a spark. But suddenly, a paralyzing dread gripped his very soul. Why had the scream stopped? Cold perspiration drenched his face as heavy footsteps echoed through the silent tomb. Eugene's voice sliced through the dark. Why crave the light? If the shadows make it hard to breathe, allow me to assist. Human sight is such a fragile weakness in the abyss. Is this better for you? Tell me, who is the predator and who is the pathetic prey? Later, Eugene returned to Tilwind Castle. Cora and Visser rushed to meet him, their faces pale with urgency. Lord Eugene, tell us the truth. Did the mercenaries truly perish to the last man? Visser's voice trailed off as he witnessed the horror. What in heaven's name? Maverick lay broken and trembling at Eugene's feet. The once proud mercenary leader was a hollow shell. Visser stared, horrified. Maverick's eyes were glazed with a primal, soul-shattering terror. He stammered, I sought to assassinate Lord Eugene, under the direct command of Lord Visser Tilwind. Visser exploded in fury. You deranged fool! How dare you lie? Cora's roar silenced him like a thunderclap. Enough! What are you hiding? Visser fought to regain his mask of composure. Brother, listen to reason. Would you trust a madman over your own kin? Maverick, cease your delusions and speak the actual truth. Maverick's mind fractured further. The truth? Yes, the crushing truth. His sanity was slipping into the void. I remember. I raised my sword against my master. Filth like me doesn't deserve to breathe. Screaming, Maverick lunged toward the window, crashing through the glass into the cold air outside. Cora raced to the ledge, peering down in shock. Maverick lay skewered upon the blade of a stone monument. He died instantly. Visser exhaled, a flicker of relief crossing his face. The trauma of the dungeon broke him. Watching his comrades be shredded like paper drove him to insanity. You can't possibly believe a lunatic. I find your reaction more disturbing, Visser. You looked relieved when he died. Visser's pulse quickened. His brother's intuition was razor sharp. Panicked, Visser turned his venomous gaze toward Eugene. And you, outsider. Eugene, have you no knightly honor? How dare you stain my reputation with these baseless lies? Swear on your soul, Visser. Are you innocent? I am. You're the one fabricating these tales. In a flash, Eugene unsheathed his blade. Then steel shall decide the truth. I challenge you to a duel of honor to uncover the truth. Hurry to the courtyard. The second young master has issued a formal challenge. Heavens, a trial by duel is a grave matter. What kind of madness has the second young master stirred up this time? They say he even hired assassins. Assassins? Ha! He just lives to cause chaos. But who was his prey? Do you know? Word is the target was Mr. Eugene, that new Night Lord, as Visser gripped his sword with murderous intent. Cora's expression darkened. The sacred pre-battle oath began. Since your stories conflict, the blade shall decide the truth. By the will of justice, victory belongs to the righteous. With a Visser leapt high, striking with all his might. Yet every blow was met with Eugene's effortless, absolute defense. Eugene's gaze remained ice cold. This is the man who hunted me for 6 long months in my previous life? How unsightly. To think I was once chased by a pathetic ant like this. It is truly humiliating. Before Visser could breathe, Eugene's counterattack struck like lightning. With a single precise strike, Eugene shattered Visser's stance and sent his sword flying. The blade thudded into the earth, vibrating with a mocking hum. Pick it up. Desperate and panicked, Visser scrambled to reclaim his weapon. The courtyard echoed with the sound of, but this was a slaughter. Even a commoner could see the truth. Eugene stood in a different realm of power. Terror began to erode Visser's spirit. That paralyzing fear stood in stark contrast to Eugene's chilling composure. In a flash of silver, Visser's arm was severed. Blood sprayed as Cora rushed forward, screaming for the duel to end. Please, I cannot stand by and watch my own brother be executed. Visser Tilwyn is broken and can no longer fight. He can no longer prove his claim. Therefore, the victor of this duel is Mr. Eugene. But Visser's primal howl cut him short. I can still fight. I'll kill this bastard with my own hands. Enough, Visser. Stop! The outcome is decided. Act like a knight, admit your crimes, and reflect in a cell. Shut up! Eugene, I will never forgive your existence. If you had never appeared, I wouldn't suffer this humiliation. With a crazed scream, Visser charged. But in the next heartbeat, his legs gave way and he collapsed into the dirt. His consciousness blurred. What's happening? Why can't I move? Isn't that my armor? Why are they looking at me? Without a second glance, Eugene turned and left with Lean and Pack. Cora stood alone in the darkening silence. My foolish brother. Was he really just a waste? He was your first fledgling, yet you discarded him like trash. Eugene's voice was cold. His will was too brittle. He couldn't even endure the basic transformation process. More importantly, he dared to bare his fangs at me. Lord Eugene, you truly are a cold-blooded vampire. But shouldn't a lord have a legion of thralls? They are the measure of your dark power, aren't they? I have no need for those. When will you learn? Turning the fragile into fledglings only creates useless baggage. It is a waste of my energy. I'll only consider it when I find someone truly worthy of my blood. Suddenly, a shadow fell over them. Did something happen to Lord Galed? Fred? Yes, a major commotion. The two men noticed Eugene walking in. Mr. Eugene, I heard your latest dungeon raid was a legendary success. Bill, I only just heard the news. 2 weeks ago, Lord Galed joined a labyrinth raid in Count Evero's lands. He vanished alone inside the depths. They searched the mid-tier zones thoroughly, but found not a single scrap of gear. The rumors say he grew greedy for glory and charged into the high-tier zones, never to return. Upon learning Galed's fate, Eugene didn't hesitate. He departed immediately for the Evero territory. Welcome, Mr. Eugene. Your reputation precedes you. You are much younger than the legend suggested. Cursed monster zone, vanishing without a trace. The moment Eugene heard of Galfred's disappearance, he didn't hesitate for a heartbeat. He stormed into Count Evergrove's domain. Welcome, Master Eugene. Your reputation precedes you. You're far younger and more striking than rumored. Lord Yan's charisma is legendary, but Eugene isn't here for flattery. My lord, the clock is ticking. Yan nods solemnly. Inside, then. Eugene is ushered into the parlor as the heavy atmosphere thickens. Galred's ambition was his downfall, Yan begins. We promised him rank, yet his greed outpaced our plans. He breached the forbidden upper zones alone. Eugene's eyes narrow. Was it truly his own choice? Yan's answer is grave. He entered a domain untouched for a century, driven by his own impulse. The heart of the abyss, the lair of the Labyrinth Lord, absolute ruler of that cursed nightmare. A knight nearby scoffs. The Lord isn't a mere inhabitant. He is the soul of the maze. Galfred's ego invited disaster. Eugene glares at the arrogant stranger. And who might you be? Yan introduces Lugat, the family's top knight. His smile is as sharp as a razor's edge. I led the mission. So, you're the hero who humbled Galfred in a duel. Impressive. A small world. As the Evergreen champion, I've also crushed him in the arena before. I suppose we share a talent for putting him in his place. Quite the coincidence, right? A chill runs down Eugene's spine. Is this really the time for jokes? He asks bluntly. Yan intervenes. Galred is a vital asset. Please, accept our family's deepest apology for this incident. He considered you his only true friend. Because of that, we'll support your search fully. But understand, For 100 years, the upper levels have been a graveyard for our kin. Every team vanishes without a trace. After 30 days of silence, we declare them officially dead. Galfred has been missing for 3 weeks. You have exactly 7 days to find him. Eugene's heart sinks. He stands to leave, but Jan raises a hand to stop him firmly. The Labyrinth is no marketplace. Give us 3 days to organize a proper elite rescue squad. Rest and recover. You must be in peak condition to survive the horrors waiting within. Eugene reluctantly nods, trapped by logic. One more thing, Yen adds. We've assigned a mage. Miriam freezes in shock, her mind racing. Is my position being snatched away by some newcomer? Later, in the city, Miriam rants. That spiky-haired knight is a total nightmare to deal with. And the Lord story? It reeks of lies. Do you really believe them, Eugene? It's suspicious. Eugene's mind is racing. Nothing adds up. His promotion was already a settled, guaranteed deal. Why force a suicide test now? And Galfred never takes unnecessary risks with his own life. Suddenly, the streets erupt. A fanatic screams to a growing, terrified crowd of local citizens. The savior descends. When the moon turns crimson, the red shadow falls upon us all. The goddess's rage shakes the earth. The beasts are dying, and the land is surely cursed. Even the strongest knights are being swallowed, Miriam gasps. Is he talking about Galfred? The preacher's eyes blaze with madness. Only blood can appease the heavens. The end is nigh. Sprinkle the blood of the calf. Hold a sacrificial feast to invite our Savior's true descent. Only then will this blood-soaked land be purged. Miriam is left speechless by the total insanity. What is this lunatic raving about? She whispers, watching the crowd's dark fervor grow rapidly. Eugene frowns. Galfred wasn't the type to be blinded by greed. He'd always prioritize survival. Suddenly, the marketplace erupts into chaos. A massive, frenzied crowd blocks their entire path forward. A man on the platform screams with wild fanaticism, "The Savior shall descend to us. On the day the crimson shadow stains the moon, the Savior shall purge this land." The goddess is enraged. These earthquakes and dying beasts are just the beginning of her wrath. Even a master knight has been swallowed by the maze. Miriam's heart skips a frantic beat. Is he talking about Galfred? The fanatic's voice reaches a fever pitch of pure desperation. Offer the blood of the calf. Hold the sacrificial feast to welcome our Lord's salvation. Only then will this blood-soaked land be saved. Miriam is utterly bewildered by the madness. Suddenly, a young boy approaches Eugene. God's wrath is here. Join us before it's over. He stared at the object in his palm, scoffing at the ridiculous rumors. These beasts weren't dying from simple tremors. Something was rotting within the labyrinth's heart. Abominations were already beginning to crawl through the jagged mountain cracks. Every thought of Galfred sent a surge of unease through him. He turned to Miriam, his eyes flashing with resolve. "We head for the labyrinth immediately," he commanded. Miriam froze, shocked he'd leave without a full assault team. Eugene opened his mouth to explain, but a presence suddenly manifested at his side. A mysterious shadow had approached. A vampire in this territory? How unexpected, she whispered. I thought the Holy Knights had purged your entire kind. Yet here you are, strolling through the daylight. Eugene's heart hammered against his ribs. His cover was blown. This woman knew exactly what he was. Before she could react, Eugene's predatory instincts took over his body. His hand clamped around her throat like a steel vice. He slammed her into the darkness of a nearby alley. Who sent you? Speak, he growled. How do you know my nature? Answer, or I'll snap your neck. The woman gasped for air, stammering out the name, Blood Shadow. The title felt strangely familiar, like an old legend. Miriam rushed into the alley, her face pale. Lord Eugene, stop! You can't kill her! She's an essential ally! She explained that the woman was a blood shadow mage. Their lineage had served vampire lords for countless generations. Their magic allowed them to sense a vampire's aura instantly. As Eugene released his grip, the woman promptly fainted. You attacked her before she could even introduce herself, Miriam yelled. How was she supposed to answer while being choked? Miriam was fuming with indignation. And you're blaming us? You're the one who terrified her with that villainous tone. The woman groaned as she woke up, coughing awkwardly. I suppose I did make a rather startling entrance. She stood up and bowed with refined grace. I am Selenino Aramari. My family has been loyal to your race for ages. It is a divine honor to meet a true member of the dark races. She looked at him with genuine reverence. Young Master Yan requested I find you, though your identity was a shock. She smiled softly. You're close with Galfred, correct? Eugene winced, feeling a strange awkwardness at her words. Why did everyone make their friendship sound so sentimental? Selenino then revealed she had been part of the original assault. Eugene leaned in, demanding every detail of the disaster. I joined the mission to harvest rare monster components, she recalled. The labyrinth was supposed to be fully mapped out. It was a legendary site, but explorers had cleared most levels a century ago. It should have been a routine raid. We moved through the upper levels with ease, but as we descended further, the very foundations of the world shook. A deafening roar echoed through the halls as the ground vanished. I felt myself slipping into the dark abyss below. But I didn't fall, her voice trembled. Sir Galfred was guarding our rear. He lunged forward and shoved me to safety. He took my place in the depths. She wept. The others claim he triggered the trap, but they're lying. They're using him as a scapegoat for the earthquake. She looked Eugene in the eye. But he saved my life. He spoke of you constantly, calling you his greatest brother-in-arms. She continued. That's why I had to find you. Eugene sighed, wishing Galfred would learn to keep a secret. But the discrepancy in the stories was deeply troubling. Was Yvonne being fed false information? Or was he the one weaving this web of lies? Nothing made sense. Suddenly, Selenino gripped his arm. I saw something else down there, a massive painted eye at the bottom of the pit. The symbol matched the leaflets those fanatics were handing out in the square. A cold dread washed over Eugene. The scene shifts to a subterranean cavern. A cult of fanatics gathered around an altar, their faces twisted in madness. We offer our flesh and blood to welcome him, they chanted. The hour of the Great Awakening is upon us. Days later, the rescue force led by Eugene and Yevon arrived. The labyrinth's entrance loomed like the mouth of hell. Mercenaries and temple knights stood in formation. Supplies are secured. The vanguard is ready to descend on your command. Lord Eugene, aren't you excited? Lugat sneered, his eyes dancing with malice. You're about to reunite with your friend. Though I suspect you'll only find his bones. Eugene's face turned into a mask of pure, murderous frost. Don't be so sensitive, Lugat laughed. Galfred is a resilient knight. Perhaps he's still screaming for help down there. Eugene stared at him with icy, predatory eyes. He knew now that Galfred's disappearance was no mere tactical accident. He would enter this death trap and watch these people closely. If there was a traitor among them, he'd find them. If Galfred had survived 3 weeks in that darkness, he could hold on a bit longer. Eugene was coming. Just then, a group of elite temple knights marched toward Eugene. Their armor gleamed with a cold, holy light. We are the temple knights of the Evergreen Monastery. It is a divine honor to stand beside a warrior as pious as you. Seeing you risk everything for a friend has moved us deeply. Let us purge this darkness together in the name of the heavens. Moran nearly burst out laughing at the absurdity. Imagine Templars saying such things to a vampire. Just then, Lugat stepped forward. Normally, these holy knights only bow to God's will and look down on everyone else. I never expected you to capture their admiration like this. Honestly, I can see a future where Mr. Eugene becomes a holy knight. The second he said it, a heavy silence fell over Eugene, Moran, and Ramari. Are you seriously suggesting a vampire join the clergy? Soon after, the massive dungeon gates were thrown open. But before they entered, Eugene gave a quiet command to his team. We're going in last. Keep your distance. Eventually, the The group reached the second-floor hall of the labyrinth to rest. The water mana in this area is incredibly dense. It's perfect. You see, a labyrinth is fundamentally different from a regular dungeon. While dungeons are natural, a labyrinth is a cold, man-made creation. Yet monsters still haunt its halls. Examining the complex layout, Eugene realized that if things turned south, this maze could be a perfect place to hide and survive. Lugat approached Eugene once more. I believe this is the most suitable place for shadows and evil to lurk, don't you? Your skills are truly remarkable. Thanks to your leadership, we haven't suffered a single casualty yet. Eugene ignored the flattery. How much further until we reach the spot where Mr. Galfred vanished? Lugat smirked. Don't be so impatient. We will arrive shortly. You need to trust me. Didn't I tell you? The Evergreen family has already mastered every trap in this maze. If you've mastered them, Eugene countered, then why are there still so many deaths every time you enter? You can think of them as sacrifices for hope. They are what allow us to survive. After all, this is a living labyrinth. Before Eugene could grasp the horror of those words, the entire structure began to tremble violently. Get ready, Lugat screamed. The labyrinth is beginning to shift. As he spoke, the very walls groaned and realigned, while massive ancient gears rose grinding from the floor. Lugat pointed to a ledge, claiming it was a shortcut to the upper levels, before leaping onto a moving gear. Eugene's eyes narrowed in suspicion. Where exactly is this shortcut? Lugat smiled darkly. You're standing right on top of it. An icy chill raced down Eugene's spine. Suddenly, the roar of grinding metal exploded through the chamber. The earth quaked with prehistoric fury. When the movement finally stopped, the group looked around, completely disoriented. Where on earth have we been sent? Romari suddenly froze, her face turning pale with absolute terror. Eugene turned to follow her gaze, and his pupils shrank to pinpricks. There, bound in the shadows, was Galfred. Without a second thought, Eugene bolted toward him. He checked for a pulse and finally exhaled when he felt a faint beat. Moran rushed over, her voice a sharp whisper. Eugene, something is wrong. There's a presence deeper in. Something ancient. No sooner had she spoken than a freezing gust of wind swept through the room. Everyone stood paralyzed. This was a completely sealed chamber. Where could a breeze possibly come from? Suddenly, a stone wall was pulverized by pure force. From the settling dust, a pair of glowing golden eyes glared at them. The beast opened its maw, spewing torrents of hellfire. The blast incinerated the remaining wall and forced the monster into full view. Romari's voice trembled in disbelief. Is that a Minotaur from the ancient legends? What is a creature like that doing here, Mr. Eugene? Protect Galfred! Eugene barked. He didn't wait for an answer before charging the beast head on. With a burst of speed, Eugene closed the gap in an instant, leaping high into the air. He raised his blade, aiming a lethal strike at its skull. But suddenly, a blinding golden light gathered in the Minotaur's mouth. A devastating gale of heat erupted, slamming into Eugene and Romari and sending them flying backward. The beast then summoned a massive scythe from thin air and began chanting a dark, rhythmic spell. Eugene's heart hammered against his ribs. What is it planning? The Minotaur finished its incantation and slammed the scythe down. The floor shattered instantly, cracks spreading like a spider web. Galfred, still tied up, began to slide toward the abyss. Eugene's mind raced with panic. He lunged to grab his friend, but a shimmering magic circle violently blocked his path. Rage boiled over in Eugene's eyes as he glared at the source of the interference. Romari, what do you think you're doing? You'll die, Mr. Eugene, she screamed. That's a high-tier Minotaur, the strongest of its kind. Even a vampire would be slaughtered by that thing. But Eugene's fury was now a physical weight in the room. He raised his sword, the cold steel pointed directly at Romari. You've just made a fatal mistake. You've crossed the line. Stand down, Romari. I'm sorry, Mr. Eugene, but I won't just stand by and watch you sprint toward your own grave. If you charge in so blindly, Your chances of survival are 0. I know you want to save Galfred, but you must stay calm. We need to analyze the situation. Besides, this labyrinth is massive. It should be impossible to stumble upon a Minotaur here. Suddenly, the stone wall behind Eugene slid open, and Lugat's mocking voice echoed from the shadows within. It seems I still underestimated you, mage. I never expected you to have mastered earth element magic as well. Without Galfred's help back then, you would have been a corpse. I thought you were just some freak creating chimera beasts. I clearly miscalculated. Before he could finish, Eugene lunged forward, gripping Lugat's throat in a deadly vice. Was this your doing? What are you talking about? I saw how desperate you were to find him, so I personally brought you to his side. Yet you treat your benefactor with such rudeness? Lugat sneered, his hand clamping down on Eugene's arm like a lead weight. With sheer, monstrous strength, he forced Eugene's arm back. Eugene's heart sank. This power, it's not human. What is happening? In a flash, Eugene ripped his arm away and retreated toward Romari. That's when a glowing mark surfaced on Lugat's hand. Seeing those ancient runes, Romari's face turned deathly pale. Mr. Eugene, that pattern, it's a magic formula for stealing power. It was originally designed to transfer strength between humans, but it was twisted to inherit the power of monsters. Because of that corruption, this art was utterly banned. It's forbidden magic. Lugat let out a hollow, mocking laugh. Forbidden? How absurd. That's just a lie told by the weak who want to monopolize true power for themselves. We are the chosen ones. When the world falls into absolute despair, God will choose us to survive until the very end. His monologue was cut short by Eugene's icy, narrow-eyed gaze. So, you stole someone else's strength to defeat Galfred, and you still have the nerve to brag as if it were your own skill? How pathetic. I'll make you realize the devastating difference between a thief with borrowed power and a true master of his own. As Eugene spoke, his mana exploded like a volcanic eruption, and he charged at Lugat with killing intent. Romari was shaken to her core. Since when could an ordinary vampire unleash such an overwhelming level of magical pressure? Before the thought could finish, the two massive surges of power collided, grinding against each other in a storm of energy. So you've been hiding your true strength this whole time? Well, you aren't the only one with secrets, Lugat roared. He drove a heavy palm straight into Eugene's abdomen, blasting him backward with a shockwave of raw force. I'm done holding back, and I won't be showing any mercy. As he spoke, the very floor beneath them began to disintegrate. Eugene and Romari plummeted into the dark depths. I told you, didn't I? Every trap in this place belongs to us. Now just die like the dogs you are! Eugene! Romari! Before they hit bottom, a magic circle flared beneath their feet. Using the circle to kick off, Eugene lunged back at Lugat, but the stone walls were already sealing shut. With a roar, Eugene thrust his long sword through the narrowing gap. The blade whistled through the air toward Lugat's head. The steel sliced open Lugat's cheek, drawing blood, but failed to kill him. Eugene and Romari vanished into the abyss. After confirming their fall, Lugat finally exhaled a heavy breath. The rumors were true. That man is a monster. I never expected him to be this powerful. If we had fought head-on, I might not have survived the encounter. Adrenaline still coursed through his veins as he stared down into the darkness where Eugene had disappeared. Using Galfred as bait instead of killing him was the best decision of my life. Such a magnificent sacrifice will be perfect. Meanwhile, thanks to Romari's quick casting to cushion their fall, the two reached the bottom of the pit unharmed. But the moment they landed, Eugene sprinted like a madman toward the darkness. Romari cried out in terror. Mr. Eugene, wait! Where are you going? Don't leave me alone! She scrambled to find her staff among the rubble. Please, wait for me! But as she looked up, she froze in shock. Eugene was already back, standing right before her. He was cradling a broken Galfred in his arms, his eyes burning with desperation. Can you save him? Healing magic isn't my specialty, she stammered. That isn't the answer I wanted. Eugene growled, his voice trembling. Fine, I'll do everything I can. Suddenly, Moran appeared, reporting that there were no exits in this sealed boss chamber. This is the deepest part of the labyrinth, a tomb. More importantly, the water energy here is suffocatingly dense. I thought I'd feel comfortable here, but I can't control any of it, especially that strange pool of blood over there. It doesn't fit. I should only be able to manipulate the blood of the dead, which means the owner is still alive. The one who shed this blood is still breathing, and whatever is waiting for us in the dark is watching. Strange markings lined the walls. This was definitely what Romari sensed earlier. Suddenly, the labyrinth shuddered. A Minotaur emerged from the gore, its presence suffocating. The legendary beast loomed over them. Romari, guard Galfred. Moran, find an exit now, Eugene shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Eugene lunged, blade raised. The Minotaur roared, swinging a massive palm with bone-crushing power. The impact shattered the floor, sending stone and blood everywhere. The arena was a wreck. Golden mana gathered in the beast's maw. Then, a devastating beam blasted toward Eugene. Eugene barely dodged the light. Suddenly, blood spears rose from the pool, seeking his life. His pupils dilated. With a desperate twist, he narrowly avoided being impaled by the spikes. After a series of rapid, evasive maneuvers, he pulled back. This legendary tier foe was truly troublesome. His weapon was failing. The broken steel grew shorter with every block against that hide. Ordinary blades were useless. Eugene channeled his own life force into the shattered hilt. Crimson energy coalesced instantly. The broken shard transformed into a wicked, blood-red curved blade. This must work, he hissed. Charging back in, he breached the Minotaur's reach once more. His blade danced, carving deep gashes. But the monster barely flinched at the assault. The shallow cuts only fueled its fury. Against such a beast, his efforts felt meaningless. A massive strike sent Eugene flying. He slammed into the stone wall with a sickening thud. The Minotaur wore a twisted human-like smirk. Seeing him fall, Romari's heart filled with dread. Wake up! Your friend is dying! She realized then that some monsters are gods of destruction. The beast grinned, savoring their despair. It began chanting a dark, rhythmic incantation. More blood spears materialized, hovering ominously. This time, they weren't aimed at the fighter. He threw himself in front of them, and a crushing sense of helplessness washed over him. It was a feeling he'd known for a decade. He thought he'd finally moved past it. But why did it burn more now? Why was this agony sharper than ever before? Why was his soul screaming in a new way? This pain was worse than the past. Blood. She knew a vampire couldn't win this. Forgive me, master. Your disciple will die here. Suddenly, Romari tried to protest, but Galfred cut her off. The truth was finally coming out. Lugat used me as bait. He wanted Eugene from the very beginning. He knew I called him my friend. Galfred's voice trembled with intense self-loathing. I dragged him into this hell. It's all my fault because I'm so weak. Coughing up blood, Galfred staggered forward. I saw your strength and I was mesmerized. I wanted to be worthy of your side. But I failed you, Eugene. Our bond ends before it truly began. Romari reached out, desperate to stop him. Mr. Galfred, stop! She screamed, but he shoved her aside with surprising, desperate strength. Run, Lady Romari! Save yourself! He looked at Eugene's broken body with tearful eyes. In the next life, let me be your knight. Then, the air itself began to vibrate. A terrifying surge of mana exploded from Eugene. He gripped the spear in his chest. With a roar, he shattered the weapon. The surrounding blood rushed toward him like a tide. His wounds knit together instantly. His eyes turned into abyssal voids of pure, murderous crimson. He pounced with predatory speed. In a flash, he severed the Minotaur's massive arm. The beast howled in agony, staring at the predator that had replaced the man. A low primal growl vibrated in Eugene's throat. Even the spirits trembled at his aura. Primal power beyond control surged toward him. Romari watched, her skin crawling with pure dread. The spilled blood is responding to Mr. Eugene. His body is undergoing a legendary metamorphosis. He can't be a common vampire. Is he a legend? Suddenly, the Minotaur charged with its scythe. Eugene raised his hand, condensing pure mana. In a heartbeat, he cleaved the beast in two. Romari hoped for an end, but an eye on the wall snapped open, firing a crimson beam. The severed remains of the beast began to stitch back together under that eerie red light. It recovered instantly, as if the killing blow never happened. Romari felt a cold shiver of terror. This level of regeneration is impossible. Is this the true, terrifying power of the Minotaur? Eugene spotted the source of the corruption. He lunged forward, smashing the first eyeball with a kick. Another one shattered instantly. He danced through the Minotaur's strikes, destroying every eye in the chamber. Yet the malevolent mana didn't fade. Instead, it grew thicker, suffocating everyone in the room. Finally, Eugene realized the truth. This Minotaur was never the master of this cursed labyrinth. The Evergreen family claimed control over the traps, yet explorers vanished on every single expedition. They didn't just vanish. The labyrinth swallowed them whole, using their lives as fuel for its growth. This entire maze is the Labyrinth Lord, the twisted god they worship. Meanwhile, the knights were praying. The temple knights had fallen into a trance. Their god was enraged, demanding total eradication. Only the Messiah can halt the destruction. Step forward, Chosen One, and bring the redemption. Show mercy to this world. We have opened your eyes. Now please, hear our desperate pleas. As the ritual peaked, the central object drained the pool of blood in a single, terrifying gasp. Countless veins of blood condensed into pure mana, coiling and compressing into a single, singular eye. Within seconds, the eye rocketed into the Minotaur, burrowing deep into the center of its chest. Horrific power erupted from the beast, and 3 pairs of wings tore through its massive back. With a violent beat of its wings, the monstrosity ascended. Romari screamed, "Where is it going?" The beast charged upward, aiming for the surface. With a deafening roar, it shattered the labyrinth's ceiling. The monster broke free, soaring into the sky. Romari watched in shock. It was heading for town. A high-tier monster has escaped. Innocent people are right outside. What can I possibly do? Suddenly, Miriam arrived, shouting, "I found an exit. But why is there a new path here? This place is falling apart. Lord Eugene, we have to escape before the whole mountain collapses." But then she saw him. Galfred, his body cruelly impaled by a forest of jagged blood spears. No one spoke as Eugene approached. Silence reigned as he reached out toward his fallen comrade. He brushed Galfred's cold face. A feeling he had never known, true sorrow, surged within his chest. Romari was stunned. Why would a vampire grieve for a mortal? Why hide his identity to serve? He possesses such noble blood. Yet he formed a bond with a human? Then she saw it. Eugene was slowly baring his fangs, leaning toward Galfred's neck with a heavy, fated gaze. Meanwhile, the winged beast reached the town's edge, letting out a screech that pierced the night air. The moon turned a deep crimson, but the sleeping townspeople remained blissfully unaware of the coming doom. Romari knew the truth now. Eugene was no ordinary noble. He carried the legendary Progenitor bloodline. Progenitors are the kings of vampires. I wasn't sure before, but there is no doubt anymore. You have the power to revive the dead, Eugene. You can make them your eternal subordinates. You know what must be done, right? Eugene's heart grew heavy as he looked at Galfred. I have to bite him and share my blood. But will his soul survive the transformation? Romari understood his fear. Many lose their minds, she admitted, but Galfred might be different. My master said that if a soul is strong enough, they can endure the progenitor's gift. They might even keep their human skills. But Galfred is a man of honor and light. He might see this rebirth as a curse. an insult to everything he stood for as a knight. He might turn and strike us instead. Eugene went quiet. I'd hidden my true nature from him for years. He once admired me, but his feelings on vampires remained a mystery. I had to ask him directly. Without warning, Eugene sank his fangs into Galfred's neck. Through his sharp teeth, he flooded the body with blood. Instantly, the forbidden knowledge of the embrace ritual surfaced in his mind. This rite binds the recipient forever. Under this sacred pact, the recipient's soul belongs solely to me, and all their power is mine now. As the inheritance concluded, a violent explosion of mana rocked the chamber. A pressure Galfred simply couldn't withstand. The energy erupted, condensing into a blinding pillar of light that pierced the labyrinth and the night sky. Simultaneously, the town outside transformed into a literal purgatory. The air was thick with agony and terror. As the labyrinth crumbled, waves of horrific monsters swarmed out, beginning a ruthless massacre across the defenseless town. Screams and wails merged into one. The labyrinth collapsed as horrific monsters flooded out. The end has finally arrived. Lugat watched the carnage with a twisted, sickening grin spreading across his face. The moment to sacrifice everything for my ultimate prize is here. These foolish humans are just pawns. I orchestrated every bit of this chaos. I need more despair, more agony to fuel my grand ascension. Only when they reach total hopelessness will I step forth to slay the Minotaur as their savior. I've offered up countless lives. Now, it's my turn to claim the throne. Let their despair be my stairs. Let their screams pave my way to godhood. But suddenly, his arrogant smile vanished. Eugene had arrived. With a cold gaze, he stepped forward and seized the Minotaur's skull, shattering it with his bare hands. The mother and daughter watched in total shock. In the young boy's eyes, admiration burned even brighter now. From afar, Lugat's world began to unravel. How was he alive? I offered him as the final sacrifice. The Minotaur should have grown invincible after consuming him. This makes no sense. Lugat's mind raced in circles. The beast absorbed his power. So why is he standing there? Did he transcend his limits at death's door? What kind of monster is he? You look troubled, Lugat, a voice echoed. But your sins end here. You look troubled, Lugat, but none of that matters. Your sins end here. Galfred materialized suddenly. He struck from the shadows, and the entire watchtower collapsed instantly under his devastating, overwhelming power. I didn't expect you to survive either. How interesting. I knew you'd miss me. Ready for my wrath? I believe you've already prepared yourself for the end, Lugat. There's no escape now.